The tale kicks off in a colossal courtroom, and the chief judge slams the moment into place, announcing that, based on everything they've hammered out, the court just officially brands Viola Vicklund a witch, and everyone holds their breath as the verdict drops. While the crowd stares with nerves and confusion, the speaker keeps going, promising that once they're done sealing off her magic completely, Viola is handed a death sentence, kicked out of the country forever, and she just stares at the news with this silent, hollow look until it all spirals, fast. Even the guards hit their limit. One of them snaps at her to get moving, and Viola grunts through the agony as a brutal chain drags her along. The guard snaps that she's only delaying the execution, and that rage makes him. He yanks her cuffs tighter and snarls, "Up right now," while she just locks eyes with him, cold as ice, calling her a witch like it won't change a thing. She's only 19, so this brutal fall hits like a truck before any of this even started. Viola was the eldest daughter of the legendary Vicklund family, and get this, she was the vice commander of the elite mages who guarded the king. Turns out her family was practically the king's right hand, one of the most respected names in the whole land, and now it's all vanished. It all kicked off in the magic kingdom of Nemes, in a house everyone talked about for. Viola's father tells her, "Starting today, you'll forge top-tier mages," as he reveals her training is set for years. Reed Vicklund, the Duke himself, steps in to warn his daughter, because she's officially a court mage, to grind even harder and keep her ego from taking over. Packed with bright smiles, swearing he'd give his heart and soul to the kingdom. And she wasn't bluffing. She'd grown up with the whole burden of being the oldest sitting on her shoulders. Daughter had been grinding through every subject she could get her hands on since she was a little kid, even up through all that time during her academy years, she stayed at the very top of her class, every single time, right? After she graduated, the call hit her. She'd be serving the king directly in a world where magic rules every breath. Becoming a court mage wasn't just a job, it was the dream everyone fought for. He pops Roypat's Viola onto her head and grins, telling her she's so good she could become the head mage in no time, which makes her blush hard as she swears she'll give it her absolute all. Life's going perfectly back then. She had a real life and a real job, standing on the front lines, doing work that actually mattered, and finally led a team she could trust with her life until one mission flipped everything. Deep in the woods, the crew gets boxed in by dark energy, and one guy spirals, screaming that backup has to be close because he can't see a way out. Things spike out of nowhere, and someone screams at everyone to cover their ears. Roy's face screams stress as he jolts them with a warning, "Get ready, it's about to get loud." When the dust finally settles, Viola barrels over to him, screaming his name and demanding to know if he's okay. Roy insists he's fine, but everyone else just freezes, stunned out of their minds by the insane power they witnessed, and Viola just freezes there, completely stunned and unable to say a word at everything that just happened. When they first met, the guy opened his mouth to talk. Then Viola Vicklund from the 1st Division stepped in, cutting him off to introduce herself properly. Roy grinned and told her he'd heard the rumors about her family, and honestly, everything he'd heard she could do had him already impressed. He kept raving that she was famous for being an incredible mage, and it totally caught her off guard, so she blushed, played it modest, and admitted she still had a long way to go. Roy then leaned in and asked if she'd escort him, confessing that he'd feel 100 times safer with her skills at his side, and then he stopped mid-sentence. And she said yes instantly. Those days were the absolute best of her life, back when Roy was just the kind captain they all trusted, before he ever became king. But those happy memories slam into the present when the room's vibe turns icy and Roy demands, "I'm asking one more time." He glares at his subordinate and demands, "Tell me, did Viola really order you to try assassinating the king?" And he doesn't even flinch, eyes down. He says, "That's exactly what happened," while Viola watches from the back, stunned out of her mind. She lunges in front of him, begging Roy to wait and saying the whole thing is insane, but he snaps, shuts her up, and calls her Vivi. He snaps his fingers. Bam! The room goes dead silent. A spell slams into her at once, and suddenly she can't move a muscle to defend herself. A soldier bursts in with a bag in his hands, shouting that they finally found the magic tool the captain kept talking about. Roy locks eyes with Viola and calls it a real shame. Then he catches himself, bites back the Vivi, and slips in her full title, Vice Commander Viola. He doesn't even wait. He blasts out a forbidden body regression spell like it's already in motion. And he explains it basically rewinds a person's body by decades, like a last resort trick reserved for the worst criminals, so just imagine what that means for the viewer. Viola shoots back. Why would a spell like that even be forbidden? And right beside Roy, the mage just starts chanting those bizarre magic words without missing a beat. Roy warns her that the real danger is this: no one knows how far the de-aging will slam into place while the chanting keeps roaring louder, and then he brings up the last person they did this to, turned into a fetus and died on the spot, but this time, it's playing out way differently. Roy flicks his gaze to the subordinate, asks casually if the guy looks about 56 now, so he calls the guy a lucky bastard for scraping through the whole ordeal, and there's Viola, still locked in cuffs, standing there like every ounce of energy got wiped clean. Roy snaps at the guards to carve magic seals into the man's limbs, insisting that once it's done, Viola will finally get thrown out of the kingdom. Everything boils down to this Viola's exile. She just stands there in her shackles, utterly drained, as if the world finally ran out of mercy. As the mages ready the ritual, casting someone out alone is their cruelest punishment, worse than everything except execution, and the brutal truth is, nobody has a clue whether the people they toss out actually survive or if they just get left to die somewhere, nameless and alone, like dogs, especially. The moment you step past the city walls, the whole outside world is packed with monsters and beasts. It's a walking death trap, it's pretty easy to see what happens next to a person who gets tossed out with nothing but the clothes on their back at the circle. One of the mages shouts that the first 3 magic circles are fully awake, and they're charging straight into the execution sequence. Meanwhile, Viola snaps to the truth. This isn't a quick jump at all. It's a massive long-distance teleportation spell, powered by dozens of mages, and all she can do is stare, wondering where they've planted the coordinates, But then she spots Roy's face dark, smug, and way too certain, so she realizes something far worse is happening, and right then, magic suddenly erupts in wild sparks, and someone yells, "Roy!" like he's the future king. Then everything smashes into a blinding white blur, right as the scene cuts to another. Somewhere else, a whole person is locked in, studying a notebook like it's a lifeline, rehearsing how to cast the spell, and marking exactly where every magic formula has to go. Viola is chilling in the library when Roy suddenly barks her nickname. She jolts hard, then blurts back an answer, totally thrown off as the convo cuts off. The clock tower outside starts chiming like it's warning everyone, and Roy blurts that it's almost time to switch shifts while Viola realizes she completely lost track of time and can't even finish her sentence while she's still staring at the hours ticking away. Surrounded by magic books and glowing crystals, Roy finally spots the chaos and bluntly asks if she's pulled another all-nighter for her research, so she just stands there, guilt written all over her face, then finally admits he's right. No rage in him at all, because he suddenly flings a soft pillow at her, and she yelps as she catches it, fully stunned that he'd just do that. Roy strides toward the door, then she blurts out his name, but he shrugs off the moment and says he just made it early for the shift change anyway then. He flashes her a warm wave and a bright smile, tells her to actually get some sleep before he has to come back and check on her again. Then he cuts the moment short. Viola stood there, clutching the pillow to her chest, and when he thanked her, she thought, wow, what a genuinely kind guy, until her memory suddenly snapped to something else. And the whole vibe flips instantly. Roy stands there, glaring while clutching some of her papers, snapping that her work is totally ridiculous, and Viola can't even process the sudden change in his attitude as she stares at him like she can't believe what she's seeing, and he plows right ahead, grumbling about how she's trying to shove those ancient, useless techniques into his mage unit like they're actually worth anything. Roy glares down at her with pure disgust and snaps, "You're a fool," his expression screaming it all. He looks right through her like she's nobody, then barks at her to clean up that trash, pointing straight at it like it's her fault. At the papers she spent all that time on, Viola murmurs, "Okay," and I just sit there. A magic circle erupts into light beneath her feet, and the system blares that the charge is already too much. It's completely done, ready to activate, so Roy doesn't hesitate and just orders it to start. "Fire it off," Viola snaps her gaze downward, remembering how kind he used to be. He's suddenly transformed into a whole different person. She's certain there's got to be a reason behind it. She digs for the real reason behind all of it, then vows she's going to get to the bottom of what's going on. Then everything snaps into clarity, one flash, and suddenly she realizes she's hovering there, floating over a snowy mountain. She loses control, then lets out a gut-punch scream as she drops straight down. Viola's panicking as she tumbles, screaming to herself that this would be so much easier if her magic wasn't sealed, but she's driving straight toward the ground, and she knows if she doesn't act right now, she's finished. She's not done. She roars that she won't die here, not today. She lunges to steady herself as she slams into the slope, screaming one final time right before she finally collapses. She winces and groans because that landing definitely left its mark. She snaps herself together, tightens her fist, and refuses to believe her chance is gone. Viola decides, if I can't pour out my voice or mana the right way, I'll just shove it through anyway. If normal magic is off the table, she'll grab something completely different. She still remembers it back when she was a vice commander. Her own family and her co-workers couldn't stand her research, but here's the crazy part. Everything she's been grinding for is about to keep her alive out here. Viola panics as the ground rushes up, yelling at herself to hurry, activate it now. She stretches out her hand and whips up a wind wall to slam the fall to a stop, but even then, she knows levitation is next, but she can already feel the clock closing in, and she's terrified she won't have time to pull it off. With nothing left in her hands, she turns to sorcery while everyone back home sneers at it. She clenches her fists and swears she can force this to work as long as she still has mana to spend. With laser focus, she drives herself to finish the spell right before she slams into whatever's ahead. She casts a slow spell to cushion the fall, praying it's enough to stop her from getting crushed. She crashes into the dirt, hacks up air, and looks down at her battered hands scraped raw, with her shackles finally snapped. Catching her breath, Viola looks down at herself and blurts out loud, "I'm alive, but then she freezes. She hears herself talk again, and instantly wonders if that silent curse finally snapped. Viola stands alone in the middle of a thick forest, scans every shadow, and realizes she has absolutely no clue how she got here. She's still reeling from that fall, and it hurts like hell, but she steels herself. She's not dying in a dump like this. With fire in her eyes, she locks onto the people behind that incident and starts zeroing in on them, thinking, plotting, refusing to let it go. She vows she'll survive no matter what, because she's the only one who can uncover the truth. Then she jolts awake in a weird room, and a voice breathes, "Thank goodness you're finally awake." A maid leans in and asks if Viola's hurting, but before she can even get the words out, the girl interrupts, then introduces herself as Ira. Ira flashes her a warm smile and tells her to breathe easy. She's safe now, but then she asks if Viola ran away from somewhere, and Viola freezes instantly because she has no answer. Right then, a knight in shining white armor slips through the curtain and leans in, asking Ira how the girl's doing. So Ira tells him, "I just woke up a second ago," and Viola just lies there, eyes wide, trying to piece together who these people even are. The knight leans down toward Viola, says he may not have the full story, but he's sure of one thing: she's not a threat. But he still snaps at Ira to stay razor alert, warning that a kid could be bait, so she should keep her eyes on everything, just in case it's a trap. Ira just grins at Viola and tells her to chill, because the guy is actually super kind, though Viola can't help thinking that somehow none of them look remotely dangerous. Out in the woods, a wagon sits totally still, and the knight stands guard right beside its wheels. A chill hits him. His eyes go wide, like he just spotted a ghost, because the girl feels exactly like the witch who once saved his life. He digs out an ancient ring, stares at it like it's cursed, and whispers, "No way, it can't possibly be her." Back inside, Ira leans in and tells you they're in the kingdom of Altian, right on the edge of the demon forest, in the Fell Duchy. Viola's cheeks flare red as she blurts out to Ira, instantly feeling awkward and out of place. She tries to tell Ira she can sit up on her own, but Ira refuses to listen, shutting her down and demanding she stay still and keep resting. Viola falls silent for a beat, her thoughts sprinting as she mouths, "Kingdom of Altian," over and over in her head. The Kingdom of Altian is one of the world's 3 biggest powers, and right now it's trapped in a breath-tight stalemate. Teetering on the edge of a brutal war with its own neighbor, the Sinai's Empire, Viola finds herself slipping back in time to her old home. The magic kingdom of Nemus stays way out of these brawls, locked up on the southern continent, like it's purposely hiding from all the chaos. Ira tells Viola that the man who was just there is Duke Noah Liefeld, and the name hits Viola hard. Viola clocks him on the spot one glance, and she realizes he's way more famous than she ever imagined. Before she became a court mage, she had to remember every big shot in the kingdom, and his name was... You can't forget him. He's only 19, and it turns out he's been running the whole show since his parents died when he was just 10. She remembers the rumor like a punch to the gut. He had to crush every single person blocking his path to become the Lord. And now these dark rumors are swirling. He's supposedly wiping out rival nobles just to claw his way to the very top. They call him the Duke of Ice because his face never cracks. No fear, no fury, nothing. And Viola finally gets it. She's staying with a legend. Hila finally snaps to it. She's been helping this whole time without even knowing who she was talking to, so she blurts an apology and begs for a name, but Viola starts to blurt out her real name, then slams the brakes, remembering she's in exile now and whatever comes next, it can't be this. They're way more complicated than they seem, and even though her country isn't officially at war, danger still hangs over her home. These people are being treated like a major threat, and there's a real chance they could spot her for who she really is, a top-ranking official. And stumbling on someone from the enemy's inner circle, hiding inside their borders, would be a massive bombshell if once they finally cracked who she really was, they'd lock her away in a cell forever, or just end her on the spot. She knows she has to hide who she really is to stay alive, and it's crushing. She hates the fact that she's lying to the very people who saved her, but she bluffs a fake name on the spot, whispers to Isla, "I'm Vivi," and when Isla hears it, she just lights up finally. She gets a name she can call. Viola can't stop thinking about what Isla said. Turns out it wasn't some stranger who picked her up in the wild at all. It was Duke Noah, and now everything just feels a whole lot bigger. At first, he eyed her like a threat. Sure, she'd be a trap, but then he saw how wrecked she was, and it clicked. She wasn't a villain, just a kid fleeing slave traders. Viola can't shake the fear, sure, they're helping her, but Duke Noah still feels suspicious as hell. Isla tells Viola, "Let's cover it all tomorrow now, go get some sleep." And Viola nods along like, yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. The next morning, the sun bursts over the trees, and a brand new day kicks off. Hila pops up at the window to wish him good morning, then asks how she feels after a whole night of sleep. Viola shoots up from the bed and tells me she's actually feeling way better, so Hila slaps her hands together, a huge wave of relief crashing over her when she finally sees her guest is okay. Viola realizes with a jolt that, yeah, her energy is back and she can move again, but that also means she's hit one huge problem. When she remembers she's only got that long shirt on with nothing underneath her cheeks, instantly explode into a full-on blush. She tries to shrug it off like, it is what it is, but the truth hits hard. She's basically wearing nothing, and the embarrassment floods her. Hila clocks her non-stop fidgeting and blurts, "Are you hungry?" And Viola freezes, completely out of words. Ayla beams and snatches Viola's hand, insisting they go greet everyone first, and even shouting, "Watch the drop," as they step down. But Viola is burning with shame, thinking how humiliating this is, even if she looks like a little kid while their carriage just sits parked by the woods. Once they step out, one maid yells for Isla, and another rushes in with, "Hey, did you finally wake up? Are you feeling okay?" Isla bursts in, says she's taking her straight to the master right now, and the night lights up. then quickly adds that he wants an intro later. Hila scoots in close and tells Viola the truth. Everyone's been freaking out over her, then asks if she'll swing back later so they can hang out. Viola's completely caught off guard. No one's been this kind to her in ages, and it leaves her staring, not knowing what to say. It makes her freeze, then whip her head around because the other maids are waving goodbye with these huge grins that practically light up their faces. The moment they slip inside, Duke Noah wastes zero time. He plops down with a stern face and demands her name and her age. Viola nearly blurts out her real name, catches herself at the last second, then shoots back that everyone calls her Vivi, before adding, with total confidence, that she's pretty sure she's only 6 years old. Even with Isla standing right there, the room's mood turns heavy fast, like Viola just stepped into a full-blown interrogation. Noah presses harder, demanding to know why she zoned out in a place like that. Viola stalls, lips tight, scrambling for a believable lie. She tells him she fled a slave trader, but inside she's spiraling because she just knows this question is coming for her. Noah asks if any other kids made it out with her, but she drops her gaze and whispers that she's totally alone, which makes. Noah drops the line, and for one full second the room freezes in awkward silence like everyone just got the message. Viola keeps her eyes glued on him, trying to figure out if that answer even gives him a shred of relief. But then he presses her. Where does she really come from? She lies again, shrugging that she doesn't even know her village's name, because the woods are packed with countless little unnamed spots. Noah just sits there mulling it over, and Viola instantly starts sweating, because she can tell he's 100% suspicious of her whole story. She clamps down on her clothes, terrified her real identity might slip because no matter what, she can't afford that. But then, Hila strides in, grabs the Duke's attention, and asks if he can spare her a minute right before the moment turns electric, and rescuing Viola from the hot seat by claiming the kid just woke up and he needs to eat something first. Noah doesn't pull any punches. He tells her she may look like a kid, but she's still a total stranger, and they're not just going to let someone that suspicious roam around without figuring out exactly who she is. Viola totally gets why he's thinking that way, because if she were the one in charge, she'd do the exact same thing too, since his whole job is to keep everyone safe. She knows she has to leave a good first impression and prove she's not a threat, but right before she can even speak, a voice outside screams for everyone's attention. A savage alarm shrieks, "Battle stations now!" and every single one of them gets caught flat-footed. Noah shoots to the window on the spot, leaving Isla and Viola frozen in place, worry chewing at them as they wait for what's coming. Outside is chaos. Those dark, shadowy monsters are swarming the camp and the carriage, and the guards and maids are flipping out in full panic. Noah clenched his teeth as panic hit. He realized they were completely surrounded, and this heavy, strange pressure was rolling off the enemies like a storm. He can't wrap his head around it. These wild things are showing up right here, in a place like this, and it feels unreal. Viola peeks outside, and her face drains of color. She recognizes exactly what those things are, and she knows this can only end badly. Noah flips into commander mode and barks at Isla to round up everyone who can't fight and get them out fast, while the rest of them charges forward to slam the monsters back and hold the line. Noah shoves a tiny blade into Isla's hands and tells her to take it, then warns that if things spiral out of control, they'll have to figure out how to keep themselves alive. The island jolts in shock, shaking as one soldier spots the enemies and yells, "Shadow soldiers!" He goes berserk, screaming for everyone to scatter and keep moving before the monsters pin them down, and the group starts breaking apart. Someone screams for Ayla to move, and she bolts over, grabs Viola, and tells her they've got to go this way right now. Noah barking orders to his men, "Don't hold your ground, don't charge headfirst into these monsters." He knows blades won't scratch them, so he screams for everyone to dodge, scramble, and keep themselves alive. The whole plan crumbles in seconds. Then one soldier gets swallowed by the dark smoke and shrieks that it's got his arm, cursing wildly as he gets yanked straight into the chaos. The monsters are everywhere, towering over the guards like living nightmares. Then Viola stares at the dark energy and realizes it isn't what they thought at all. It's shadow flames, and in Nemes, those beasts have a terrifying rep for brutal, non-stop violence, absolute killers. But wait, there's more. But Viola still remembers her old life back when she was a commander. She'd steamroll the pests by the swarm, wiping them out across the city like it was nothing, and those memories come back loud and clear when she's dealing with them again. But everything's different now. Her magic is sealed tight, and she's trapped in a little kid's body, barely able to run, let alone fight back. As they keep sprinting, Viola tilts her head toward Isla and blurts out, "So it's really true none of us can use magic at all." Isla fixes the kid with a stare and tells her, "You say the strangest things, because almost nobody in this whole territory can even use magic at all." She tells him she's heard Nemes is packed with magic users, but right now, that tip doesn't do them a lick of good. One guard tries to rally everyone, shouting that Noah's got the demon sword and a few magic tools to deal with this, but those shadow flames are lightning quick, and the instant the soldiers charge in, screams erupt as they start getting wiped out, one by one. Isla shouts at Viola to hurry over to safety right now, even though she stares back at the chaos and realizes at this pace, Noah and the rest of the crew won't survive. She blurts out a shaky response, clearly torn up inside about what she's about to do next. Viola feels the shift in her tone and snaps her head up, asking Ayla, "What's going on?" Ayla just stares down at her with a soft, heartbroken smile, whispers, "I'm sorry," and makes it painfully clear that her main job is to shield her master at any cost, even if it forces her to defy her own orders and charge ahead. Ayla grabs Viola's hand and tells her, "From here, you run solo," swearing that Noah will track her down later for sure. Viola snaps a worried look and blurts out, "Don't you get it? We can't just stay back and throw ourselves away like that." Ayla flashes a gentle smile and tells them, "If you stay here, I'll buy us enough time to slip away and get safe." She says, "Look, Noah saved us all anyway," and the other maids nod like it's the final word, insisting they've got zero regrets for helping out. Viola just stands there, looking wrecked, because she knows she can't use a single one of her usual magic right now, but then she clocks it. There's a whole other play, taking them out with sorcery instead of magic. She's terrified that using it will expose her as anything but a normal kid, but she can't just stand by and she can't watch them die, so she clenches her resolve, turns around, and charges straight back into the fight. Ayla is absolutely stunned when she sees the little girl sprinting the wrong way. She snaps her name out in a frantic scream. Viola slams down to the ground, scans frantically for a catalyst, and swears she needs something about the size of her palm to make it finally work. Viola scours the ground, snatches up a stone at last, and declares, "I found it." She jabs her finger at Ayla and snaps, "Hand over that dagger right now," and Ayla bursts out yelling her name in pure shock, right as Viola snaps at her to hurry up. Ayla's eyes widen in disbelief as the power surges, and she blurts, "Wait, what is happening?" Turns out the magecraft everyone talks about used to be called alchemy back in the day. It's basically all about pumping mana straight into those stones and gems, and uses a keyword to set them off. Real magic taps your own inner power, but this just pulls power straight from nature, so anyone can do it. There's just one catch. It just makes basic tricks, so most people shrug it off like it's totally pointless. Even though mages know this truth is out there, nobody's brave enough to dig deeper than the dusty old history. Viola lays it out. Most people swear magic is superior in every single way, so they don't bother digging into old languages for research, like it even matters, that's why she buried her studies as a secret for so long, because nobody else even cared about that kind of thing. She admits it's a little rough, but says it'll hold then, right as she triggers that high-level Gale wall shield too. He blasts the whole area with a furious wave of wind and scattering leaves. Viola snaps, "Hurry up," and demands everyone rush in and crowd around her right away. Noah steps back and barks for everyone to huddle up, because the second the danger hits, they all sprint toward her protection. He asks Ayla if she's okay, and she shoots back fast that she's fine, then he just freezes, eyes locked on Viola's back, and blurts out, "So what the heck are you?" She shoots him a bright smile, tells him he's got nothing to fear because she'll protect him, then leaves him completely stunned. Suddenly, she lets out a scream that this is about to get brutally loud, so they'd better clamp their ears right now. Viola roars out a massive spell flame flare, burning lance, starfall, then blasts a relentless rain of light that slams into the targets with such brutal force that everything vanishes in a choking cloud of smoke, and just like that, every single shadow soldier gets erased in one brutal instant. Noah just freezes there, jaw hanging open, trying to wrap his head around what the hell went down. He blurts out, "What are you even?" completely stunned, because the magic power she just unleashed is absolutely out of this world. Viola mutters that she definitely poured way too much energy into that one, and Isla absolutely loses it. Noah doesn't even move as she crumples, and Noah fails to catch her, and Isla can't stop wondering who this girl really is. Still reeling from the kid who just saved them, they couldn't even wrap their heads around it because that moment would flip their lives forever. Everything snaps into a memory. Someone is shouting for their majesty, and then a hand comes into view. His hand shot out toward the fleeing figure, demanding to know why they'd risk everything like this. Viola jolts up in full panic during her nightmare, screaming for King Roy, begging him to come, but she jolts awake inside a carriage, rolling through bright, sunlit woods. A voice cuts through the haze, telling her she's finally awake as she thrashes to shake off the dream. Noah and Ayla look absolutely wrecked with relief, because that girl is finally conscious again. Viola snaps, asking what happened to her, and Noah tells her the truth. She blacked out right after she smashed that shadow monster. And then it all crashes back into her. She remembers just how much magic she had to dump into that fight to even stand a chance. She snaps into panic, starts checking on everyone, and demands to know how the rest of the unit is doing. But Noah doesn't pull any punches. He says over half of them are injured, and the whole situation is looking brutally grim. Even with all the damage done, he makes sure she knows one thing: nobody actually died. She shot her a tiny smile and told her the truth. Every single one of them is still alive because of what she did. The carriage finally grinds to a stop at this massive estate, and the driver yells, "We're here!" Noah finally turns back to Viola and tells her, "All right, business time, I'm talking now." He lunges straight into her space and demands the full, unforged truth, insisting he wants every last detail straight from her mouth. So Viola finally blurts out the whole truth, and Noah just sits there at his desk, frozen in total disbelief. He checks her again and realizes she doesn't look like she's lying, so for now, he decides to believe her. She'll be in the loop about where she's staying and what comes next. Later on, we'll handle all the details then. Noah rose to her feet and said that no matter how crazy her story sounds, he can't deny the fact she saved them. And he knows his squad will never let it slide if he trashes their savior, so he better thank her the right way. He sinks into a deep bow, pouring out real respect, and finally says her full name, Lady Viola Vickland, before continuing. Viola just shoots him a bright, massive grin, practically breathless with relief that he finally believes her. Noah tells Viola to lock their secret conversation up tight between just the two of them, and she immediately thanks him for being so understanding. Ela ushers her down the hall, muttering that it's been a brutal long day and that she's got to get some sleep, like right now. Viola stumbles into a huge, fancy bedroom and just stands there, stunned. She can't stop herself. She faceplants straight into the bed like it's the only place she's allowed to land. She presses her face into those soft sheets and grins, because it's been forever since she's had a bed this fluffy. Clutching the blanket like it was her lifeline, she finally realizes she actually crawled out of that nightmare alive. Her thoughts explode into panic, those fake charges they cooked up to exile her, and the shocking way the king's personality flipped overnight. But then she realizes this whole mess has too many details that still don't add up, and that's freaking her out. She stares at the massive estate, swears on the spot she'll dig out the truth, and then the next morning hits, and Viola is left drifting through these massive hallways, finally realizing, wow, this place is absolutely gigantic. Viola halts mid-step the second she hears a man's voice, asking if the price can be lowered, and instantly realizes exactly who it is. She sneaks a peek into the kitchen, spots the delivery guy chatting with Isla, and her gut feeling hits Ina really is there. He rubs the back of his head and blurts out that he's sorry, because that's the absolute lowest price he can possibly go. But he tries to fix everything by swearing their ingredients are extra fresh, like that'll justify the price. Viola watches with quiet sympathy imagining how brutal it must be for Ina to juggle caring for the Duke and managing all that money at the same time. Later, she spots a young guy fiddling with his gear, fuming because his sword is completely wrecked and he's begging for a replacement. He leans in and tells his buddy that shadow attacks have been hitting way harder lately, and yesterday the raid got doomed because they didn't even have the gear to fight back. So the other guy starts doubting should they really rank magic tools at the top when they're about to get brand new stuff anyway. They both come to the same brutal truth with their budget this tight. Asking for more of everything is just too much, and then, as Viola keeps pushing deeper, she trips into a room and her jaw drops at the sheer mountain of swords just sitting there, like someone forgot to hide them. Bart drops to his knees and starts inspecting the wreck of swords piled in front of him, like he's ready to take them all on. He tells Vivi thanks for the help, because he's still not quite used to juggling all this gear yet. Vivi hauls a bundle of swords up to the spot and asks, "Is this good to set them down?" And the guy just gives a quick, "Yeah," like it's no big deal. He thanks her again, and she freezes mid-step just long enough to stare him down. Bart spots her staring at his bandage, shrugs it off like it's nothing from yesterday, but then it hits him. She's the girl who saved his life, and he demands proof, so she finally tells him her name, Vivi. He beams at her, flashes a big grin, and proudly introduces himself as Bart. After thanking her one last time, he tells her it would have gotten way uglier if she hadn't shown up. But Vivi's face falls, and she tells him she can't shake the guilt she's still hurting inside that he ended up getting hurt at all. Bart drops down right to her level and snaps that she's wrong. Then the whole squad lights up with gratitude, and even the Duke pulls a thankful nod. Vivi starts spiraling. She realizes all she really knows about the Duke is what she's read on paper, and if she's going to be around him more, she has to find out who he actually is, so she turns to Bart and asks what kind of person Dukefeld really is. Only Bart looks stunned. She even brought it up, and then But before he answers, he pauses for a second, then tells her, "Yeah, there are creepy rumors flying about him, but the truth is, he's actually pretty kind to the people who work under him." Bart blurts that the Duke and his uncle have got some brutal history, and Vivi just keeps staring, repeating "uncle," like her brain can't catch up. He admits he doesn't even have the whole story, yet somehow the drama just keeps exploding non-stop. Bart flashes a shaky little smile and admits that if a fight erupts, his injury will leave him as good as worthless. He'll just get shoved aside and forgotten. Vivi tilts her head toward the bright side and fires back. "So does that mean the Duke isn't a villain? I mean, no decent person would do something like that." And Bart fires off a shaky laugh and tells her, "Yeah, sure," even though his voice says he's not really convinced at all. The two of them huddle on the bench for a moment, and then Bart blurts out, "So can I ask you something too?" He brings up the magic she used to save him, stunned that she even could pull off something that incredible because he had absolutely no idea. Vivi racks her brain for an answer, then realizes spilling the whole truth could wreck everything, so she smirks, sees a chance, and decides to use this mess to her advantage, so she raises a finger and tells him, "Just call it magic, at least something close to it, so we can keep this simple for you." She flashes Bart a wicked little grin and basically tells him, "Don't overthink it. Just imagine my power sits right in that same lane." Vivi then tells you the truth. This kind of magic doesn't care about your age or where you were born, and talent doesn't matter at all, because sorcery isn't some locked-away power at all. Anyone can learn it if they truly want it. And Bart's eyes light up at the thought, totally impressed, and Vivi leans in through the clothes, grilling him. Does he really want to learn magic himself? Bart's nerves spike, and he blurts out, "I guess I am," but his sentence cuts off just. She lights a fire under Vivi standing tall. She tells him to finally let his guard down, because she's taking him by the hand and handling every step herself. Bart just bursts into laughter and basically says he may have to ask her to teach him a few things soon. Vivi's eyes go icy and focused as she snaps that they're starting all the way back the complete history of sorcery right from the very beginning, but then bam, the Duke bursts out of nowhere, catches them in the act, and demands to know what in the world they think they're doing. Vivi gasps in shock when a hand suddenly rockets out, snatches her, and yanks her away. The Duke ambushes Bard, snaps at him to get over here right this second. He slumps back in his chair and tells Vivi she's being dangerously careless, yet she shrugs like it doesn't even bother her. He warns her that someone might be trying to trap her, then snaps. "So why are you running around telling everyone who you are?" But Vivi just shuts down, letting him say it plain she needs to stop trusting people so damn easily. Vivi's face twists into something grim, and she realizes this is her best shot, the real one. And she's sure the ones who framed her can't keep it together forever, especially when they hear a girl who looks just like the vice captain they tossed out. Since they'll know it's her, she decides to take control, bait them herself, and draw them out. She suddenly clicks if there's truly a mastermind steering her banishment from the capital. She'll be waiting to smash them at their own game, because deep down, she knows she's not the one who's wrong. Vivi hears a rumor about some kid using magic, and she knows it won't spread fast, not with her power sealed up and her trapped in this body. She looks genuinely worried, thinking, "We're totally short-handed, like we can't handle a real fight at all." But Noah's just standing there, a full-on heavy hitter. He's got the name and the army behind it, exactly what they need to finally flip the whole situation. Vivi strides up to his desk, asks what's eating him, and Noah doesn't beat around the bush. He admits it straight. They're getting crushed by all these monster raids, and they're falling way behind. And things are getting so desperate that even the head is forced to fight over the price of food just to survive another day. He tells them they can't get a single new magic tool, so the guys are out there fighting with gear that's basically crumbling in their hands. The non-stop attacks keep smashing their resources, money pouring into repairs and desperate expeditions until they finally slam into a breaking point. Vivi slams her hands down and declares she's got a plan to fix this, so she locks eyes with him, grins so wide it's almost a dare, and tells him to just try using her right now. Noah squints at Vivi, challenging her like, "What do you mean by using me?" But Vivi doesn't miss a beat. She just fires back with a massive, confident yes. And she dives straight into it, hammering out what she can do, from patching their money troubles with magic tools to hardcore military strategy and training. She even dares to say she could help him build a whole magic soldier corps from scratch. She's fully diving into her past, reminding him that, as the former vice captain of the Nemus Kingdom's Mage Division, she's got the experience to back up every move. To make it happen, she stages a massive performance, swearing she'll back the Duke in every way she can. Then suddenly, it all cuts off with a, "But no." But Noah doesn't buy it. He leans back, locks eyes with her, and drills her for the real motive behind all this help. A voice from somewhere nearby suddenly erupts in a shout, pure disbelief like, "No way," and it blasts all the way outside. Vivi keeps her composure, flashes a sweet, innocent smile, and tells him she only wants to repay him for saving her life earlier. But deep down, she's cooking up a whole other plan. She bets that if she plays her cards right, the rumors will fly on their own without her lifting a finger, though she frets that her act might have screamed too obvious, admits her repayment story is basically a straight-up lie, and then she shrugs, because in the end, it doesn't matter. Vivi stares down at the guy on the ground, and the magic he's been using hits her like a nightmare flashback. It's the same exact stuff from that incident from way back when, and she's shocked to realize that, and she starts snapping everything into place because once she links this guy to her past, she realizes that if this connection is real, then letting him run wild might be the smartest play she's betting. He'll eventually herd her right to the exact people she's been hunting. She stares at her own hands and reminds herself she's not that helpless little kid anymore. Everything's changed, and now it's finally her turn. She grabs the power to get her revenge herself, ready to do it her way. But back in the room, Noah blurts that he feels awful for pulling Vivi into his mess, yet Vivi just smiles sweetly, secretly thinking the guilt should be on him since she's the one using him. Noah finally nods and signs on, grinning that he'll take her up on the offer while Vivi stays flawlessly in character, calling it a generous proposal and promising she'd love to help out, so just right then, Aina barges in to check on them, apologizes with a quick smile, and tells everyone she brought a fresh pot of tea for the table. As she pours the drinks, Aina whips her head toward Vivi and asks, "So what's your next move?" Noah figures Vivi and her crew are actually helping, so he lets them run wild for now, and Aina nods like, Got it. This is the plan. Vivi's eyes burn with determination. She knows the moment she's been waiting for is finally here, and it's time to strike. Noah stared at an old family photo, seeing his parents' faces smeared and gone, and then he said it. He finally has a real lead on the people who killed them. As he takes a sip of his tea, he swears no matter what it costs, he'll hunt down the culprit. Meanwhile, at a different estate, a messenger slams the report in, and before the words even settle, the Lord just snarls a grating grunt like, "So." Then the guy starts obsessing over that part of the report, where a kid unleashes some seriously weird magic. He whips around to the messenger, blasts him for dragging his feet and making him wait way too long for the news, but the messenger fights to defend himself, insisting he was actually hurt in the monster attack, so that's why he's late. The Lord doesn't give a damn. He just stares at him like he's trash, spits out that he's useless, and bashes commoners as nothing but incompetent fools. He snaps at the guy to get out, and the messenger immediately scrambles out of the room with a shaky excuse. One of his aides tries to cut in, but the Lord just smirks and waves him off like it's all pointless anyway. The boy strides down the long hallway, tossing out a casual line that people who can't stop yapping should get a real punishment. Meanwhile, Vivi's just blinking awake in her room, stretching hard and letting out this huge yawn as she gears up for the day. She's still basking in the moment she finally got everyone on the same page, but now her brain scrambles because where do they even start their work? As she strides through the manor, she spots a bunch of maids and one other staff member loitering by a door, like they're guarding something that'll blow her world apart. Something feels off, and Vivi can't ignore it. This place is suddenly getting loud, messy, and straight-up chaotic. She strides up to the group and asks, "What happened?" But the others just stare at her with faces tight with worry. Suddenly, she hears that laugh again, someone telling her they'd love for her to teach them a few things someday just before the... But the moment she peers into that room and spots a guy sprawled face down on the floor, her whole world freezes. She's left completely stunned. She's totally freaked out, staring at him in disbelief, begging the universe to explain how this happened and why everything turned out this way. The rest of the staff bursts in behind her, shouting what's happening, while the whole room freezes and stares at the body, holding their breath to see what Vivi does next. Noah towers over the chaos with a chilling stare, while Vivi freezes on the spot, whispering his name like she can't believe what she's seeing. The staffer nearby is trembling hard, stammering that he just went to check the weapons and then found the guy like that. Noah stays calm and tells Ina to take over for the rest of the people here. She snaps into action and agrees fast, so she could steer the group away, checking on them as the other maids still look totally shaken by what they'd just seen. Noah whips his head back to Vivi and asks if she's already been to Ina's quarters yet. She won't even give him an answer, just stands there glaring like something's about to snap. She's clutching her dress so tight her knuckles turn white, stuck there thinking, why did it have to go down like this right when we finally escaped the worst of it? A sudden memory of Bart hits her like a wave. He was overflowing with joy because Noah finally saw his magic the way it deserved, not like everyone else who just mocked him and laughed. Noah steadied Vivi by placing a hand on her head, then swore like her lord that he would make sure she got avenged. She drops her gaze, murmurs a soft reply, and frantically tries to make sense of everything as the camera snaps to the body on the floor. Deep, brutal wounds glare back like a sword cut them open. Noah studies the body and zeroes in on the truth. There's no sign the man was dragged at all. He's sure of it. The guy was murdered on the spot. As he scans the room, he realizes no outsider could have slipped in, especially since nobody was expecting any guests today. So Vivi tilts her head up, her brain scrambling as the inside job clicks, and she can't stop herself from asking who in the world would dare do something like this. Just then, Vivi catches a weird vibe in the air. She can feel lingering mana clinging to the room, and she can tell something's still off. Noah spots something on the floor, lunges for it, and just as he reaches, Vivi blurts, "What did you find?" He lifts his hand to reveal a few tiny fragments, and she squints, asking if they're just some kind of stones. She leans in for a closer look, and suddenly she feels it, a faint burst of magical energy pulsing from the piece. It finally clicks. These aren't just rocks at all. They're catalysts, and every last one of them is totally drained. Vivi tells Noah those stones were for casting a spell, and when he asks if that means actual magic happened here, she says it's almost certain. She steps in for the final check, stares at the wound, and feels that exact same magical energy still hanging around the body. Vivi stares at the clues and realizes that only sorcery actually needs catalysts like these, meaning every mage leaves behind a one-of-a-kind energy signature that's common knowledge in her world, so she starts clicking the pieces together, fast. Noah stares at the body, demanding confirmation was that magic really what killed her. Vivi snaps to the energy trail and thinks, no real mage would be this reckless, especially going after a total beginner. And it's just too obvious. She clocks it instantly. No real professional would ever pull a crime this sloppy, because the whole setup screams. Way too sloppy, like the killer wanted her caught, leaving behind a flashing neon clue that practically screamed, right here is who you're looking for. Meanwhile, this young guy is crouched in the woods, freaking out he can't even process it. They spotted him that fast. And once he says that a duke like Noah's around, you can basically kiss it goodbye trying to hide, as soldiers won't stop them from getting caught. The guy bolts through the trees, shouting to the others that they have to sprint away right now, but Noah is already on him. He steps out with a deathly cold stare and orders the guy to freeze, right where he stands. The young guy freezes hard, then spots the duke right in front of him, stammers out the title, and he instantly knows he's in a world of trouble. Vivi's eyes snap shut in focus as the clues finally click. She freezes for a beat, spots the one detail that flips the whole game, and then she gasps, "Wait." She doesn't beat around the bush. She tells him straight that the magic energy vanished at the scene matches him perfectly, then locks eyes and hits him with the truth he's the one who killed Mr. Burt, leaving the... He's freaking out, scrambling to play it cool like she's just talking nonsense. Then he blurts out what magic traces even means, scoffing like the whole idea is insane, because, yeah. He whips his head toward Noah, fighting for air as he begs the Duke, "Are you really going to ignore your own voice and listen to some random kid's story instead?" He keeps hammering his point, claiming a kid's word isn't proof, but Vivi snaps back, cutting him off to ask if he's really trying to debate evidence. She plants her feet and refuses to back down, tells him straight up she can see every secret he's trying to bury, and the poor guy just stands there, totally lost. Vivi lets out a long sigh, shuts her eyes like she's sick of the excuses, and snaps that if he insists on being difficult, then what can she even do right then? His face cracks, the whole act falls apart, and he blurts out that getting caught this fast was a huge mistake, right as magic whips into swirling fire around him and he braces to fight. But Vivi isn't finished. She points out, dead serious, that he never had time to wash up before bolting because there's still a massive blood splatter stuck right on his clothes. Vivi jabs a finger at him, tells that guy to his face his blinding tricks won't touch her, and since, because magic and sorcery don't pop up here every day, it's obvious he's the odd one out. Noah stands by, keeps pushing, calling him out for tossing out half-baked spells that don't impress her for a second. Then she cuts him off mid-sentence. "No." Noah stares the guy down with a hard, serious glare and demands, "Who the heck taught you to use magic like that?" And then, but Vivi's patience is snapping. She tells him, if he won't talk, she'll drag the truth out of him herself. Her eyes turn ice cold as she admits she's terrified because right now, she absolutely can't afford to be gentle with him. And as soon as that magic ignites and flares, she shuts him down instantly. There's no way he's getting away. She unleashes her power and the poor guy gets smashed by a giant, swirling blast of magic. The guy is frozen in total shock, while Vivi stands her ground and tells him to stop fighting, just give up and accept his fate. Noah lunges for his blade and mutters, like he already knows the ending's sealed, "Guess it has to end like this." He blurts out that his real orders were only to wipe out the useless one, but now everything's shifted, and fast Vivi's caught totally off guard, staring like, orders from who? And she can't shake the feeling someone bigger is pulling the strings. The attacker shrugs it off like it's nothing, locks eyes with Noah, and snaps that he must be the kid from the report, while Noah and Vivi brace themselves in the woods, ready for whatever hits next while. He flashes this unsettling grin, chuckling that his boss will be over the moon if he brings back Noah's head as a bonus. Suddenly, Vivi's gut drops. She spots him dragging a magic formula straight onto the ground. Panic hits her hard when she sees him force raw energy into a catalyst that's already drained straight up suicide. Before she can even blink, the entire area erupts boom into a blinding storm of light and raw energy. Vivi's eyes go wide with pure panic. She's convinced she can't move fast enough to stop the explosion or save them. But Noah isn't letting that happen. He clamps down on his sword, then snaps. No! In a split second, Noah whips his blade and slices straight through the magic crystals before they can wreck anyone else. Then he calmly quips that the guy's basically useless without a catalyst doing the heavy lifting. The attacker just freezes in place with his mouth hanging open, utterly stunned that someone can snuff out his magic that effortlessly. Vivi just freezes, eyes wide as the catalyst pieces rain down, and she can't even process it. Noah really smashed the entire thing with a single swing of his sword. Noah whips around and asks if she's hurt, and she shoots back that she's totally fine though. Even as the attacker starts to look a little shaken, he straight up admits it. He's got zero practice taking on people who can actually handle magic. Noah locks eyes with Vivi and tells her he needs her strength. Then he can't stop there, as he trails off mid-sentence. He shoots his hand out toward her, basically begging her to back him up for what's about to hit next. Vivi stares up at him, fighting back tears as she breathes out his title. But Noah stays ice calm. He leans in and asks if there's even a reason to doubt everything right now, in a moment like this. He fires back with the exact words from before, and Vivi snaps into this fearless, cocky grin, telling him to go ahead and use her power, because the moment to act is right this second. The attacker just shrugs it off and laughs at them, sneering that they're just a kid and a swordsman trying to take him. Then Vivi fires back. Of course we can, and she ends it by ripping apart his skills, mocking his magic technique as if it's nothing more than some total beginner trying to flex new moves they just barely learned. Vivi goes for broke and calls his technique totally low level, and the guy starts breaking into a sweat as he desperately tries to pretend it doesn't hit him. The guy's patience snaps. He demands to know what she just said to him, and the whole moment hits like a flash. So Vivi shoots him a smug look and says she's about to show him what the real deal actually looks like. He snaps and calls her a cheeky brat, then goes to swing back only for the energy in the air to suddenly start shifting, like something's about to explode. And the entire area gets yanked into a colossal storm of magic power. The attacker just freezes there, utterly stunned, barely able to even make sense of what's happening right in front of him. Vivi stays totally unbothered while fire whips around her, casually calling it basic flame magic, and she presses him. Does he even know what high-ranking magic is supposed to look like, because the spells are escalating fast and hitting way harder? She locks eyes with him and makes up her mind she's not going to keep torturing him much longer. Time to end this. As she stared at the shattered bits in her palm, she realized just how brutal it is to hunt down a real catalyst outside Nerthus, especially after she tried to snatch every useful thing she could. Vivi realizes her juice is almost gone, and panic hits as she thinks, I've only got a few more moves left. She stands before that massive swirl of magic, knowing she has to tie everything up fast, or the guy she's fighting is about to slip right through her fingers, barely hanging on, groaning like he's seconds from cracking. Noah barrels straight into the chaos to back Vivi up, throwing himself right between her and the threat. The attacker finally snaps to it. His odds of winning have vanished, and he knows it. Vivi stares him down and tells him to quit fighting, surrender to fate, but right when she's about to finish, a dazzling beam suddenly detonates straight in her face, stealing her breath. She shields her eyes just in time, clocking the flashbang the guy tossed, then snaps that it's a totally cheap move while she stumbled back through the trees, totally blind, panicking that one wrong step would send her crashing. The crystal that sparked the whole distraction flares one final time, then explodes into a storm of glittering shards. Noah grabs Vivi's hand and asks if she's okay, and she flashes him a quick nod like everything's under control. Then out of nowhere, she shoots her hand out and barks, "Wait!" groaning hard like she's fed up. She stares at her empty hands, and it hits her every shred of the catalyst she needed is completely gone. She figures she must have dropped it the second that explosion ripped through the air, but then, she can't afford to let those guys slip away, even while she freezes, staring at her own hands in total shock. The messenger kid is sprinting through the woods like his life depends on it, and he's already cursing that they didn't even kill Vivi and the Duke. Once the job was done, he just had to report back. Suddenly, he whips around and screams because a gigantic wave of magic is spinning right around him, and it won't stop. Noah and Vivi stand their ground, staring like they're about to go full throttle, like this is where things finally get serious. Vivi just realizes without any catalyst at all, her magic is bursting out of her like it can't be contained anymore. Vivi stares at her hand, and her breath catches. She can't believe her eyes, not for a second anymore. Right there on the ground, the catalyst ring glinted. She thought she'd lost it for good. She snatches it up, grins wide, and practically whispers, "This couldn't have worked out better for us." And just like that, her magic snaps into razor-sharp focus and slams forward in a massive strike. The messenger whips his head back, and pure panic hits. He realizes he's not slipping out of this that easy. Noah clamps onto Vivi with a vice grip as her magic spirals out of control. Then boom! An enormous explosion rips through the woods, blasting up the earth right where he'd been sprinting. He gets slammed to the dirt as shadowy figures pin him down, choking the life out of his breath. So Vivi strides up to him and demands, right in his face, that he starts talking. She locks eyes with him and demands every last secret he's been hiding. The messenger is still stuck in place when out of nowhere he jerks rigid, screams that something else is charging in. A colossal, nightmare deer beast draped in crawling dark smoke stomps out from the trees like it owns the night. Noah demands to know if that thing is really a magic beast, while Vivi's mind can't wrap around how it even slipped onto the grounds. But the messenger just snaps into full maniac laughter, yelling that he's carrying a message sent straight from him. He's 100 sure his boss sent that monster just to save his life, but then he just stops there. He doesn't let up. He jabs a finger at Vivi and declares, "She's the kid we've been hearing about." The monster looms over him, snarling these twisted, broken sounds like it's obsessed with one thing killing him. It inches in closer, and at the last second the guy finally clocks it's wrong, begging it to stop. Noah snaps into it and yells at Lord Norman, demanding to know what the hell is happening here. But right before he can even move, the messenger detonates into one last scream. Then the beast barrels in and attacks. The dark deer beast lets out a brutal, smoky breath that blooms into a thick cloud, and Vivi shoots her hand out, totally panicked, desperately trying to do something, anything to stop what's happening. But then it hits her. Her magic won't ignite without a catalyst, and she's frozen there, stuck as the moment slips away. As she and Noah dug in their heels, they fought back against the massive beast stalking the woods. Right when the tension peaks, the monster streaks forward like a blur and vanishes, so it all ends with the two of them frozen, staring at a blank patch of grass where everything was just moments ago. Noah demands to know if that was truly a magic beast and why it showed up here, but the truth is, he can't explain a single thing. Vivi can't stop replaying that creature in her mind, realizing its energy felt nothing like any normal beast she'd ever known. She looks totally rattled, and she fires back who in the world could possibly be behind this. Noah stares straight ahead and tells her the truth. It's already over, too late to save it. Vivi stares down at the dark, stained ground, and the shock hits hard. She can't wrap her head around any of this anymore. Thinking about that monster, she clenches her fists and wishes she'd slammed it down the second it showed up, but she couldn't shake the awful feeling that she missed her chance again. Noah turns and starts to walk away, promising her this isn't over, and Vivi keeps right on his heels. He starts spiraling. What kind of monster-fueled psychopath kills a man just to shut him up? Vivi's eyes bulge when she realizes Beast didn't grab some random target he chose with a purpose. The Duke's practically glowing with confidence, and just like he promised, this isn't even close to over. It all slams back into the real question why Mr. Burt got killed, and how the culprit ended up dead too. It all leads back to that strange monster, and now they're finally 100 sure of one thing. As Vivi pushes deeper into the trees, a cold realization hits someone out there is casting magic right now. Ever since King Roy went through that massive transformation, he's been locking down every trail, making sure nobody can dig up a single scrap of info on sorcery. And while folks outside Nemes might have heard a few things about magic, you'll never catch a sorcerer casually posted up in the open. Noah whips his gaze to Vivi and tells her the guy said Lord Norman right before he died, then asks if that name means anything to her. Vivi's jaw drops when Noah blurts. The truth turns out the man is actually his uncle, and the shock hits her like a punch. That's why Bart brought up the fact that the two can't stand each other, and Noah just flat out admits he's 100 right. Ever since his parents were slaughtered, his uncle has been consumed by one goal: snatch the title for himself, and he's even been sending his own men to hunt him down. Ever since he was a tiny kid, Noah hasn't been able to trust a single soul outside his inner circle. None of them. Vivi stares at him with heartbreaking pity, and it clicks, so that's why everyone started calling him the Duke of Ice. Noah drops into a crouch to scan the area, realizing this is the very first time his uncle has ever brought in a magic user, someone who can be ordered around. He can't stop replaying it in his head, because to him, his uncle has never once had even a hint of anything to do with the magic world. Vivi points out that no way would some random subordinate just figure out magic like that completely on his own. And Noah starts wondering, could it be his uncle pulling the strings, or is someone else out there behind it all? Yeah, it's obvious somebody had to coach that guy on how to use that exact spell. Vivi's eyes sharpen instantly as she realizes someone with magic has to be right there, working closely with the Duke's uncle. She starts snapping the clues together. Uncle, magic, and Nemes, and the feeling hits hard. There are way more secrets lurking just under the surface. Noah decides he's done waiting around, and he tells her straight up that he's going to confront the guy and ask him face to face. He tells them to hit up his uncle right now, and Vivi nods like, let's go, then sets off with him. Deep in the woods, a lone deer freezes in a quiet clearing for 1 tense second before then it gets yanked down out of nowhere and smashes into the grass with a brutal thud as a woman in a nun's outfit hides among the trees, grinning like a nightmare as she whispers Viola's real name to herself. The nun lurks in the shadows with a creepy grin, eyes locked on her target, and she can't believe her luck. She never thought she'd find them in a place like this. She locks eyes with a razor-sharp stare, realizing Vivi is the biggest roadblock to their whole plan so hard that for a second she even weighs killing her right then and there. But as she watches Noah and Vivi fade into the distance, she snaps back. Yeah, her mind changes right on the spot, at least for now. With a smug grin, she leans in and whispers that they'll meet again soon, calling herself the human magic user, like it's a promise. The story jumps to a shaky carriage rattling down a muddy, bumpy road, racing toward the uncle's estate right as it's cut off. While Vivi stays inside, flipping through books and burning with questions about what's been happening in Nemes ever since she left. If NOAA says the country's still totally sealed off, cutting it off from the entire rest of the world. He shrugs and says things have gotten way stricter lately, so anyone on the outside has zero chance of ever knowing what's really going on in there. Noah slumps his head into his hand, muttering that they're basically in pitch darkness, and Vivi can't help but nod because even as she stands there, the thought keeps buzzing in her mind. Everyone's too busy to notice her face, and nobody asks what's bothering her or what's weighing on her mind. Viola stands in front of Noah's desk and points like a detective, insisting Nemes and the Duke's uncle are tied together for sure, setting up what comes next. Until it hit him, magic is the one thing binding them all together. She admits it feels strange now that they've sealed themselves off from the outside world, but then she drops the real twist. It's way deeper than that. She tells you that back in Nemesis, almost nobody even bothers with magic anymore. Turns out King Roy has been wiping out every last shred of magic, so people are terrified they don't even dare say the word, and it all starts to spiral from there, which makes the craziest part. Some outsider was using it, and she couldn't help wondering if that guy was even really from Nems. Noah just sits there, smirks, and shrugs. I don't think so, as he stares at the situation. Rage burned in him as he confessed he'd believed the guy was a loyal servant for years. Then he realized he'd been played the whole time. Viola glances off to the side, and you can tell seeing real magic hit someone so close to the ground makes her stomach drop, because whatever's happening back home suddenly feels far more dangerous. She tells him that even in exile, it's still her country, and she can't stop her heart from worrying about it. Viola starts freaking out about what happens if magic actually blows up in Nemes, and she's so lost in her own thoughts that Noah has to shout her name just to snap her back. She panics, convinced her exile was nothing but a setup to keep her clueless, but Noah snaps in, saying he's pretty sure that's not the truth. She tries to reset everything, telling them to drop the jokes, only Noah can't even tell if she's joking or if it's real, so she peers out the window and admits the country was already in total chaos before she even left, because all the trouble with magic users and that demon beast blew everything up. She stares out into the distance and admits that something feels terribly off, like the whole situation is trouble. She mouths, "I'm hoping for the best," but her face screams, "Things are about to go south," like the disaster is already around the corner, leading. Noah tells her he'll do everything he can to dig up intel on Nemes from his side, and she answers with the most polite thank you you'll ever hear. Later on, Viola sinks into the carriage seat, her mind racing with one brutal question: will her father and the whole kingdom make it through okay? But meanwhile, while somewhere else in the city, chaos is already snapping at everyone's heels, getting louder by the second. A guy gets trapped by guards on all sides, and he screams at the top of his lungs, swearing he's innocent and didn't do a thing. A thunderous voice slices through the city's chaos, shouting at everyone to shut up and listen to The accuser thrusts his guard straight at the guy, screaming that he stormed the castle, tried to murder the king, and swears they've already got all the proof they need. The accused man lunges to stop them, screaming that they've got zero proof because he's innocent. But he won't stop shrieking, insisting he never did it, and swearing he hasn't even set foot in that castle. As they slam him into the cage, he thrusts his hand out and pleads, "Anyone, please, just believe him." The crowd watching can't believe it. Are we seriously doing this again? They're whispering that the whole country is spiraling into chaos. Two women linger off to the side, whispering non-stop, and one leans in to ask if the others heard the newest juicy rumors. She says the general store owner's daughter is still gone, vanished into thin air, like she was never there. The other woman can't even process it. How is it already a whole month since that girl vanished? And while time keeps ticking it, turns out the shop owner across the street has vanished for 2 whole months, and nobody has a clue where anybody's even headed. People across the city are freaking out, asking where everyone vanished to, and praying they'll be found soon. Every wall's plastered with missing person posters, and people whisper like, "This isn't only the murder, that steady stream of people disappearing is getting terrifying." Staring up at that castle, the locals look completely wrecked, like, what the hell is going on with the country lately? Hidden away in a secret room, a giant cannon-like machine hums to life, blasting eerie magic runes into the air. King Roy stands right beside it, and that mysterious woman in a nun outfit leans into him like she owns the moment. Roy leans in and asks if the job is coming along the way it should, and the soldier right beside him fires back that it's all going perfectly. But when the soldier stares at the giant device, he can't help blurting, "So what the heck is something like this even for?" He's visibly trembling, yelling if this is supposed to be for war, while Roy just locks eyes with him. Those creepy, slit-like stare says he's up to something. Roy reassures the guy. It's totally fine. He insists they don't need to know anything at all. The soldier's eyes widen with panic. Then his face goes totally blank, like someone just erased his thoughts right on the spot. The mysterious woman in that nun getup claims she understands the whole plan, while the kid stuck between them looks absolutely terrified. King Roy looks like he's slipping, scratching his head with a blank stare like his brain can't even catch up with what's happening. So she tells him it's time to move, and Roy blurts out this strange shout like his brain's gone offline. Next, he burst into a massive library packed with endless rows of ancient, dusty books. The woman steps up to Roy's desk and demands, "So how's Duke Vicklin doing these days?" She flashes this icy little smile and shrugs like it straight up changes nothing at all. Her eyes go sharp as she spits out how the Duke is still groveling, insisting his daughter is innocent, and she's furious because he should have swallowed the truth a long time ago. Roy sits there, fingers laced, and just shoots back, "Got it, I hear you." She says, "Sure, the Duke once did great things for the country, but today, he's still the father of a criminal." With a creepy grin, she whispers that he has to be forced to finally understand just how terrible it really is. Down in a gloomy dungeon, a lone man slumps in the cell, trapped behind iron bars, while King Roy shoots a stressed stare into the distance, whispering that he knows exactly what's going on. He hunches over his desk, mumbling "criminal" over and over like he's desperately clawing at an answer that won't come. Roy's jaw drops in pure shock, and he grills Vivi with a disbelief so loud he almost talks to himself. There's no way she really did all that. But the woman in the nun outfit shuts him down instantly, saying Viola Vickland was trying to spread magic, which she calls a suspicious art, and she leans in close and whispers that Viola is a dangerous criminal who plotted to kill him, so they shipped her away. With Roy's eyes snapping wide in terror, she blurts that they had to cast a forbidden spell on the girl so she'd never be able to do anything evil again. She shoots him a wide-eyed, bone-chilling stare and warns, "Don't you dare forget a single bit of this." Roy lets out this soft little sound and nods along like he's caught in a trance. She's got him completely in her grip now. She finally blurts out she has to leave prayers almost here, and Roy just nods like, "All right." The nun refuses to break character, insisting to the king that as the saint, it's her sworn duty to stay right there in the prayer room, so she makes Roy promise absolutely no interruptions while she's in there. As she strides down the hall by herself, she exhales hard and blurts, "That was way too close." She knows she's got to hit him with the hypnosis again soon, because if he ever fully snaps into place, everything's going to get ugly fast. Leaning at the window, she dreams of stealing every last spark of magic in the kingdom, because once that experiment ends, it's all going to be hers. She leans over the city below, eyes blazing, consumed by the thought that this is the moment her revenge finally lands. Her expression snaps into a terrifying grin as she screams that those humans stole magic from her people. Then bam, she snaps out of her rant, suddenly remembering she's got a guest coming later today. She says she has to get back to their side like that, right away. That she vanished, and all that was left was this unsettling dark puddle soaking into the floor. The carriage finally grinds to a halt, and someone yells that they've arrived. Noah stares at the towering mansion, and the shock hits him. This place has been gone from his life for ages. The moment they step inside, a whole army of maids lines up to welcome them, cheering as they bring Duke Feld home. One of the staff gestures them toward the stairs, shouting that the master is already inside, waiting with bated breath. The Duke's uncle bursts in with a massive grin, practically glowing as he says he's thrilled to finally see Noah again after all this time. He digs into the past, saying the last time they really saw each other was at Noah's parents' funeral. Nowhere keeps her head up, stays polite, and admits with a straight face that, yeah, it's been forever since then. Viola steps back, eyes locked on the scene, and it finally clicks. This guy isn't just some random dude, he's the Duke's uncle. And then she spots a woman in a fancy dress nearby, whispering to herself like, "Is Viola really the Duke's wife?" Viola stands frozen in place, utterly baffled by everything that's happening. The woman in the dress smirks at them like she knows a secret, and suddenly a creepy, gut-deep dread hits her as the whole thing unfolds, and Lord Norman shifts his gaze to the maid nearby and presses her, asking who she really is. Viola dips into a graceful curtsy and tells him it's truly an honor to meet him, then smiles and says her name is Vivi. Noah steps in and lays it out, telling his uncle that she's staying with them, and that it's all because of specific circumstances. Norman just smirks and leans in, asking Noah straight up if he came here for more than a simple visit like, "Wait, which?" Leads them straight to the sitting area, and Norman gives a nod like he totally gets it. "Yeah, I see how it is." Noah tries to call him out for it, but Norman just stares him down and shoots back. "So what about it?" The room snaps silent as Noah drops his gaze, clearly furious at the way his uncle is acting. Norman flashes a smug grin and insists the whole mess was nothing but the handiwork of some imposter. He doubles down hard, swearing he never gave orders like that and saying he doesn't even recognize the guy Noah's talking about. Norman stays icy, shooting back why anyone would bother sending a spy to his world, and he insists there's simply no point. And Viola locks eyes on him, trying to figure out if he's really telling the truth about everything. She replays the whole nightmare in her head, the plan to wipe out the Duke flat out collapsed, and still. But she finally gets it. This Duke still has eyes on everything, making sure no one snags onto his next move. It's not as simple as just watching. He's probably biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But something feels wildly off to her, like the Ice Duke himself shows up with some random little girl, and it still doesn't sit right. Norman doesn't even blink. Her being there hits him like no big deal at all. The way he acts makes it feel like he'd known she was coming all along, like that moment was already waiting for him, and it's about to hit hard. Viola can't help but wonder just how much has this guy truly cracked, and does he even realize she's from Nemes? Norman smugly slurps his tea, bragging that there's absolutely no way he'd ever do something like that to his precious nephew. Norman pauses, lets the silence hit for a beat, sets his teacup down, and then he begins to speak. Or maybe he just can't. He just wants to know, does Noah have real proof to back up all those claims? Norman plays the victim and swears no proof, just an accusation that it's all made up, then calls it pathetic how they're throwing guesses around. He leans in with a crooked, nasty grin and tells him it's the exact same mess as Noah's mom and dad, and that comment lands like a punch. Viola whips her gaze to the Duke and instantly sees just how badly it's getting under his skin. Under the weight of those towering chandeliers, the whole room suddenly goes silent, so tense it feels like you could slice through it with a blade. Noah locks eyes with him and says, "Everything feels exactly the same as back then. Same games, same lies." Viola snaps to it. They messed up big time, and she can't stop wishing they'd used magic to capture the messenger's confession before it slipped away. She's replaying that Duke's family hit from years back in her head, and that's the key, because it means, even if any normal evidence is long gone, if Norman paid for an assassin, there's a chance a record is still tucked away somewhere. Noah's younger cousin, Lewis, slams his gaze to the ground, furious that they can't drag Norman to justice even though they're dead sure he's guilty. Noah and Viola push down the hall when a voice snaps from behind, demanding, "Wait, are you really Noah?" A kid sprints up with a gigantic grin, yelling that he knew it was his brother. Then his whole face lights up with real, unstoppable joy. Noah yanks Lewis into a tight hug and asks how he's been, since it's been ages. Then Lewis grins and says he's doing great. Noah blurts out that she's really their uncle's kid. Then Lewis snaps his head to her and demands, "Who are you?" That's when Viola flashes him a huge grin and tells him, "I'm Vivi." Then explains she's only staying with the Duke's family for now because something's going on back home. She's about to tell him what a pleasure it is to meet him. Then a hand shoots out, and the whole vibe flips instantly. Viola snaps to attention, launches into a sprint, and dodges just in time while everyone else is still blinking, totally blindsided. She's utterly stunned by what she's feeling. She can barely get words out, because whatever just happened hits like a massive wave. Lewis feels it too. He swears there's magic in this place that's totally different from hers. Then he straight up demands, "Who's there?" Lewis goes stone still the second a hulking, alien-looking monster drops in right behind him, and his mind instantly spirals, what in the world is that terrifying thing? The spirit locks eyes forward with icy stare, orders everyone to back off, and Lewis just stands there like he's been hit by a ghost sighting. Noah whips his head around, utterly stunned, and blurts, "What's going on?" because he can't see the giant entity looming right in front of them. But Viola sees it crystal clear, and she can't stop spiraling, because why would a spirit show up in a place like this at all? A mage's voice cuts in, saying the creature isn't anything natural. It's a spirit, forged from pure magic, and it all means that those things are pure magic manifestations. Nemusu's mages can't function without them, so of course they're incredibly special. Viola whips her head toward Noah and asks if he can actually see it. He just growls out some weird sound, then stalks away, so So she realizes that outside of Namusu, almost nobody can see spirits. And when she spots someone right nearby who can, it hits her like a punch to the gut. She whips her gaze to Louis, and he's staring at the same thing, too. The kid is visibly trembling, frozen in front of that monster, and just as the spirit's magic suddenly surges, it slams into Viola so violently she can barely stay upright while the wind erupts around her. The spirit locks eyes with Viola, points her out like she's guilty, and declares she's 100 not from around here because it can smell magic on her, yet there isn't a single scrap of mana to be found. It gets even stranger when the spirit snaps and realizes she's using the exact same moves as another woman she already knows. Viola's totally blindsided. She can't stop thinking, who is this other woman, and how do they both have the same skills? Noah steps in with a grim, steady stare and tells the spirit, Viola's with me. She's the real deal, someone you can trust. Viola tilts her gaze up at him, whispers his title through a shaky breath, and you can practically see her heart melting at the fact he's standing up for her. Louis stares at them, thinking, if it's these two, they just might be able to help, but his hesitation keeps creeping in until he finally digs up the courage to go straight to his brother, begging him to help stop whatever's haunting their house and save it. The story cuts to a silent room inside the mansion, where a chandelier looms above the heavy furniture, and the moment just starts. Louis guides them straight to a certain spot, pointing it out with urgency, while Viola realizes everyone there is wound so tight they can barely breathe. She knows that a plain locked door never scares off nosy ears, so she thrusts her hand forward and tells them calm as a dagger that she's cast a sealing spell on everyone to keep the secrets locked down tight. Noah locks eyes with Louis and asks, straight up, if he'll spill the full story of what's really going on in Louis. Louis lays it out. Every single person in the house is getting played by his father's second wife, Cecilia, and she's the one who knows. Noah can't shake the sight from earlier, so he demands answers, making sure she's the exact woman who stood right beside his uncle. Louis nods, then tells them that the day his mother died from sickness, his father didn't even grieve. He just showed up with this woman like nothing happened. And he keeps talking right then. In that mansion, everyone suddenly starts acting so weird it's chilling. Now, everyone obeys Cecilia like she's calling the shots, and his father has even barricaded himself in the annex, doing what looks like shady, secret rituals. Viola hears the house's creepy behavior laid out piece by piece, and blurts out, could this be magic after all? Louis looks totally shaken and blurts out that ever since he was a little kid, he's been seeing things nobody else can. So, yeah, that's exactly why he's so sure. He drops a total bombshell saying that woman isn't even human, because he can feel this insane, overwhelming power roaring out of her. Noah feels it in his gut and knows he's right. Something's off, but then the truth hits, and the whole situation is way bigger than he ever imagined. Cecilia lurks in the shadows, staring, replaying it in her head. She's sure she's seen that person before, somewhere. While Louis explains that when everything went off the rails and he felt completely alone, this fire spirit burst in out of nowhere and stepped up to help him. Even with the spirit backing him up, the kid still looks shaken, because he knows nothing he can do right now will ever measure up to that woman. He's at his breaking point, begging Noah and Vivi to step up and save everyone before it all spirals into disaster. No, before it gets worse. Period. Back in the main house, Cecilia hunkers down and listens in, ripping into Louis as a useless brat just for even saying her name. Lord Norman stands right beside her, fuming as he snaps that they can't just leave Noah to run wild, because deep down, he's already regretting not finishing the job when he had the chance. Norman stares at Cecilia and says it's not over yet, finish the job now. And she flashes this unsettling smile, telling him to chill and trust her because everything's falling into place exactly as planned. She stares out the window, clutching magic fire in her hand, still reeling from the fact a human actually wore that ring, because she knows she has to get it for whatever scheme she's cooking. All she can think about is ripping it back somehow, some way for herself. Cecilia towers over the room, magic roaring in her hands as she snaps at Louis that she's clocked his schemes with Vivi, and she cackles, saying Vivi's spell on the door is totally pointless because she can see every single thing happening inside this mansion. Stalking through the shadows, she taunts Lewis for sneaking around behind his parents' backs, then swears he'll vanish next. She unleashes her shadow beasts, cooing that they're her lovely pets, and fires them off to finish the job, and then the moment cuts off. Back in the room, no one even clocks how ghost-pale Vivi looks yet. When they finally realize something's off, she can barely breathe, too locked in on the thing in front of her to say a word. He stopped cold, sure as ever that something deadly was waiting for him the moment he opened that door. She screams for the Duke to dodge, and Noah instantly blasts everyone to back off while Lewis scrambles to escape. The lock shatters into a million splinters from one brutal, bone-rattling blow. Vivi tightens her grip on her magic, then gasps in shock when she finally realizes the monster crashing the scene is the one breaking in. Beasts burst through the air and slam into the room, while Vivi scrambles to block them at the last second. The door finally crashes open, and Noah snaps to the truth. These attackers aren't hesitating at all. They're dead set on murdering everyone in that room, and Vivi refuses to back off, telling him she's good for a fight and plans to plow straight through whatever comes next. But she freezes dead in her tracks when she finally sees who's really doing the attacking, completely stunned at how anyone could act this insane. She notices this strange magical aura swirling around them, and it hits her. They're being controlled. Panic explodes because she can barely move, can't fight back, and it feels like everything's unraveling right in front of her. Noah screams her name as the shadow beast rockets into the room, slashing away any chance of a quick escape. Staring down the pack of monsters, Vivi tries to light them all up in one crazy blast. Then the nightmare hits her. Magic has zero catalyst left. It hits her hard. Her gut feeling about the mansion was right, because someone tore through the place and stripped out every single thing she could have used for a spell, and she's seething that they went so hard to make sure she had zero way to fight back. But then, out of nowhere, a spirit slips in behind her and whispers that it'll help her just for the kid's sake, leaving Vivi utterly stunned. She snaps her confidence back instantly, realizing that with the spirit backing her, she might actually flip the entire situation around. Vivi doesn't hesitate. She screams for a wind spear and blasts a hole straight through the monster, and then he freezes for a heartbeat, stunned out of his mind as she finally realizes just where they've landed. Aina grabs onto Lewis right there. Totally stunned, she blurts out, "What are you even doing here?" But Noah slams the moment shut and tells her, "We'll hash out the details later. We've got to get to somewhere safe right now." They rush to escape, but every window and every door is completely jammed in place, and the panic cuts off mid-breath. Vivi stares at the inner door and points out, dead center, that it's nowhere near as tough as the main entrance they just blasted through. Louis shoots her a nervous look and asks what she's up to. Vivi just smirks like she owns the moment and says it's as simple as it gets. She unleashes a colossal burst of magic that shatters the door in a thunderous explosion. Vivi's beaming and cheering as she finally gets it open, while Noah just slumps in the back, drained after her wild methods. They stumble on the rest of the staff packed in a tight huddle, and Noah blurts out, "Did we get everyone?" The maids nod and confirm it, every last one's accounted for. Vivi scans the group and snaps that she's thrown a magic barrier around the whole room. Then she swears they'll be safe in here for now. Noah stands up like he owns the moment and declares it's time they're going out to crush the very source of the trouble. Lewis isn't backing down. He roars that he's coming with them, his eyes blazing like he's itching for a fight. Noah drops down to the kid's level, tells him straight up that he won't let him get hurt, and orders him to hang back and trust them to handle it. Vivi stares them down, and her gut screams that this whole thing is tipping into danger. She's putting the pieces together, and it's starting to click, and now she realizes her uncle and Cecilia have to be tangled up in this mess way weirder than she expected, because she never once spotted any magic puppeteering that guy. Then it snaps into place. She realizes they're teaming up on purpose. Vivi knows she can't let her suspicions slip yet, so she flashes a smile and tells everyone, "Don't worry," like it's the truth. Lewis whips around to a spirit and asks, "Can I follow the spirit, brothers?" The spirit nods him through, and they start getting ready. The staff snaps at them to watch their step, and they swear they'll stay safe as they finally step out. Lewis pops into view in the hallway for just a second, then waits right by the huge doors right before. Before he and Vivi even started chasing that glowing spirit through the corridor, they pushed deeper into the house, and Vivi can't shake the thought that the spirit she spotted in Nemes barely ever touched people unless someone was truly casting magic right at that very moment. She tilts her head up at the guide and says it's insanely rare for a spirit to actually stand by a human like this. Then the spirit snaps its attention to the truth. This place is packed with magic density, and it keeps explaining why that matters. This place was once crawling with spirits spending every day guarding the land with its closest friends, and jumping in to help whenever anyone needed it. Then time kept chewing through them one by one until only this single spirit was left standing in the whole forest. Vivi snaps that weird reports of spirits vanishing keep flooding in from Nemes. Turns out she's been chasing the same mystery since she was vice captain, and that's when everything starts to fall apart for her. She got thrown out of the country before she could ever uncover what was really behind it. The spirit simply turns its gaze aside, haunted by the thought of how it endured all those years in that place, utterly alone. The spirit drifts back to the very first time it stumbled into that crying kid just standing there, utterly alone, shaking with non-stop sobs. It hit the spirit like a thunderclap because not a single human had ever managed to witness it until that very moment. The spirit caught sight of the mansion and its residents, and instantly felt that something demonic was circling, and danger was already on the doorstep. Even if the spirit tried to jump in, it knew it couldn't truly fix everything by itself, so it looks straight at Vivi, and Louis then asks these children of men to please help carry the child, because it can't do it alone. Vivi wastes zero time, flashes a huge grin, and tells the spirit, "Of course I've got you." They kick off down the hallway as Vivi fires off the bad news. Some spell is cloaking the entire mansion, and if they want it gone, they've got to track down the source. Louis leans toward the window and asks, "So the source is tucked away in one of these rooms we're about to pass?" Vivi snaps back, "No, this magic is a trap to trap everyone inside." And she points out the cruel truth: whoever set it up would never lock themselves in with the rest. She snaps into a serious stare, like she just figured out there's a secret route from the mansion straight to that nearby building. Even though Vivi's hunting for another house nearby, the whole estate's a dead zone, no buildings in sight, just an empty stretch of nothing. Suddenly, Vivi gets yanked out of nowhere, and she blurts at whoever's holding her to let go, totally stunned, not ready for it at all. As she whirls around and snaps at Noah for being way too careless, he just stands there, stunned, then blurts out her name. Vivi can't believe someone like him actually got fooled by a simple blinding spell. Then, as she keeps talking, the air shifts, and a swirl of magic rips open the dead, empty world. Then a giant hidden building slams into view right in front of them. Vivi blurts it out. Those inside can see them right away, even though they couldn't even spot the building until this very moment. She sits Noah down and lays it all out. This whole thing was a slick, magical illusion, built to bury the real truth. Noah's jaw drops as a whole building sprouts out of thin air, but Vivi's locked in. She insists the magic source has to be hiding right inside. With pure determination blazing in her eyes, Vivi locks onto that house and swears she's coming for whoever's behind all this right now. Cecilia peeks from her window as they close in, and with a calm little note, she realizes they cracked it way faster than she ever expected. Inside the hidden building, Cecilia realizes her illusion collapsed way too fast. She figured they'd catch the disguise, so she just shrugs it off with a grin, saying she's not into fighting, but if trouble comes, she'll handle it. Downstairs, Vivian and Noah finally burst into the mansion, storming through the main entrance and spotting the whole place is dead silent. No one's around. Noah blurts that it's way too quiet, and Vivi just nods along like she already knows why, because she senses something's off. She snaps at Noah to stay on guard, because whatever's stalking her uncle's house is not human. Right then, Lord Norman drops out of nowhere, locks eyes with them, and snaps that this little visit is about to become a serious problem. Dark energy crawls across the floor straight toward the two of them, and it's obvious now they're not alone anymore. And Lord Norman plays the perfect host, flat out warning them that this is no place for guests to just stumble into. Vivi freezes for a split second, eyes locked on what's happening, and then she spots the one detail that flips everything upside down. She realizes Cecilia is just like those creepy servants in the halls. Someone's using her, and someone's pulling her strings. Vivi lets out a pained grunt as dark energy slams her to the ground, pinning her there. She's stunned at just how unstoppable the force is. Cecilia just bursts into laughter and tells her to stop fighting it, because if she keeps going, she might actually lose some limbs for real. She leans in real close, smirking as she mocks how the mighty vice commander of the Magic Knights somehow got reduced to a tiny, adorable kid. Vivi's whole body locks up when Cecilia stares her dead in the eyes and drops her real name, Viola. Vivi's stomach drops as she snaps, demanding to know how this woman knows her name and what she's really hiding about who she is yet. But the moment she leans in, she sees it perfectly. Whatever's in front of her isn't human in the slightest. Cecilia just shoots him a stare for a second, like she can't believe what he said, then she snaps, barging up to Vivi to say, "Don't lump me in with a creature like me," because she claims there's a limit to how insulting someone can be. She brushes Vivi off like she's nothing, snaps that Vivi isn't even the problem she came for, and says she's got bigger plans. Then everything cuts off. Then she snaps her attention to Noah and singles out the ring he's holding like she'd been aiming for that all along. Cecilia leans in with a chilling grin and tells Noah to hand it over right now like she means it. With the ring he's been hiding up his sleeve, the sudden demand hits him like a punch, leaving Vivi totally blindsided. Noah shoots her a glance, stunned, because he has zero idea how she found out, yet that ring means too much to him to ever lose it. He locks eyes with her, stares her down like a challenge, and tells her flat out that he's not handing that over to a single person. Then the ring erupts in a blinding glow, like its power is waking up for the first time. Noah snaps into a combat stance, and dark energy churns around him like a storm. Noah demands Vivi confirm that the woman standing there isn't human, and Vivi fires back with a loud, absolute, "She's definitely not." Noah snaps to action, sword in hand, launching forward as he tells Cecilia, since she's a monster, he's done playing nice and won't spare her a shred of mercy. He swings with everything he's got, and boom, it lands smacking right through Cecilia's dark energy as his blade carves clean, and she lets out a hard grunt. Cecilia just stands there, hand clamped to her wound, then bursts into self-laughing like the pain is the funniest thing in the world. Cecilia grins with cold, creepy eyes and whispers that it was terrifying, like it bothered her at all. Clearly not, even though she sneers at the whole idea that a duke would just swing in and start slashing people out of nowhere. From the sidelines, Vivi clocks it instantly. This fight won't be a breeze, and Cecilia's totally out to prove she's going to end him. Vivi keeps chasing this bizarre, weird power he's running on so hard she can't stop asking herself if she might be just like a magic beast. But Cecilia snaps, getting visibly offended, and tells them point blank not to lump her in with creatures like that. Cecilia snaps into action, slams a hand of dark energy out, and clamps it over Noah's face, yanking him clean off the ground before anyone even has time to react. He can barely choke out a word as she tells him she'll let him go if he hands over the ring. Then her tone flips and she's changed her mind. She decides it's quicker to end him tightening her grip until Vivi stares in total disbelief, then erupts into a frantic scream for the Duke. Noah manages to shout back to Vivi, urging her to grab the thing and use it right now. Lewis looks totally shell-shocked, frozen in place as soon as someone yells his name, and just as the tension spikes, Vivi bursts in. She insists she told him to wait, but she couldn't stand staying behind, and yeah, she's grinning as she tells Noah he crushed it, because she's already got her magic tool lined up and ready to go. A brutal wave of magic crashes into Cecilia and rockets her through the air like a cannonball. The explosion shoves her hands away from Noah. He crumples to his knees, choking on air, while Vivi barrels in and blurts, "Noah, are you okay?" Cecilia isn't finished. She just locks eyes with Vivi and holds that stare like, "Oh, I get it now." On the side, that spirit figure fumes about Vivi running off, while Lewis just stares downward, apologizing because he couldn't stop her from launching into the jump. Louis snaps his focus back to his father, face breaking like glass as he chokes out, "Father!" And he spirals into panic, shouting, "Why won't you recognize me?" while he begs his dad, please don't walk away. Vivi watches it all unfold and suddenly clicks. This isn't random at all. She tells everyone the man is being controlled and that Cecilia is the one pulling every string. Cecilia lets out a heavy sigh, totally done with everything, and vents that one disaster after another keeps piling up on her. But then the shadows streak in, snatch Louis up like lightning, and Norman screams the kid's name in full panic. Louis looks utterly terrified, and he can't even make sense of it as the darkness surges in and swallows him whole. Norman snaps, screams at Cecilia, and demands to know why she's breaking her promise to leave his son alone. She doesn't even blink, just stares at him with those icy eyes and tells him he's being a total pain. The shadows snap at Norman, and when they slam into him, a strangled groan rips out of his throat. Norman slams down hard onto the floor, and Louis shrieks for his father as he hangs there, completely helpless in midair. Vivi's had it. She surges with magic, powers up, and orders Cecilia to let the kid go right now. Cecilia flashes that mocking grin and asks Vivi, point blank, if she's really ready to start something. She starts dropping hints about how a kid with the right magic talent could be the key to her plans, and the scary part is, she's not backing down. Cecilia won't stop blabbing about her dark magic. She even names the exact spell that turns people into magical beasts, while Vivi screams that she's never seen a technique like that in her life, but Cecilia cuts in like, that's because humans don't even know it exists. Vivi's whole body tenses as Cecilia drops the truth. This power is only something her kind can use, and it's painfully clear that turns out the magic humans sling around is basically a pathetic copy because the real magic they use, that stuff is the true power. Cecilia flashes a chilling grin as she finally spills it. Only demons can wield power like that. Vivi can't even wrap her mind around it. She just blurts out, barely louder than a breath, demons! The shock slamming into her like a wave. Cecilia stares at the wreckage and realizes they really tore through her creatures, but honestly, she was about to restock her supply anyway. She tells him she tried the exact same move on the local spirits years ago, and back then, it crashed and burned. Just when the fire spirit finally gets it, it snaps and yells at Cecilia because she's the one who's been hurting all of its friends. Cecilia plays it cool, like it's nothing until that shock slips out when she realizes one of her old specimens actually managed to worm its way free. Cecilia flashes that creepy grin like a warning sign, sounding genuinely shocked that anyone at all made it out of her past experiments, and then the fire spirit totally snaps, screaming at her as it hurls a massive wall of flames straight across the room. So Cecilia gets caught in the heat. Then the spirit tells her she's next on the list, and Cecilia just glares, annoyed because she lets out a long sigh and admits things aren't going as planned right now. Then her gut tells her something's about to go wrong. That Vivi might be the one to pull off something absolutely unhinged, staring him down with that intense look while Louis backs up, eyes wide with worry, and can only hope that whatever hits next actually turns out okay. But it all goes sideways. Vivi's lungs rip with a scream as Louis realizes he won't make it out in time, leaving Vivi no. Vivi lunged forward, screaming that she'd lose no one else today right as a massive surge of dark energy detonates the instant it appears before her, blasting the whole space full of a crushing, lightless. A towering wall of black magic slammed down between her and Louis, sealing them apart and cutting off any chance to reach each other. Vivian and Louis freeze on the spot when they finally realize the fire spirit didn't just change it, morphed into a magical beast, and Cecilia soaks up every second, gushing that it's incredible while the creature's massive eye pins them in place. She's wearing that wild, can't-believe-it grin, basically confessing it wasn't how she planned it at all, but she's just glowing because it finally worked then. Then she spirals into overthinking, counting every past failure like a warning, and insists they need a way to make this consistent for real. She stares at the dark mass, and even though the shape still wobbles, she's certain it'll calm down, lock into place, and stabilize, so she leans in, asks the monster what it's like to be wearing a brand new body, and tells it no question that this must be the best feeling ever. Louis stands there, trembling hard, eyes wide. He can't swallow what he's seeing, and he keeps blurting, "No way this can't be real," like the words might stop the impossible. Cecilia flashes that cruel smile and tells them, "Now I've got a success story, so the rest of you are basically useless to me." Right then, she decides she's done with the nuisances blocking her, and as the monster surges closer, Lewis lunges toward it, screaming, "It's me!" to the spirit, begging it to remember exactly who he is. Vivi lunges for the creature's attention, shouting at it with all her might like, "Lou!" Lewis stands there completely frozen. Then the monster surges forward, and Vivi screams, "Watch out!" Screamed his name in a panic, because it was tearing forward faster than he could follow, so he dives in and yanks the guy back at the last second right as the monster's giant arm crashes into the ground, missing them by a hair. Vivi stares at the massive crater, and her stomach drops because if that thing had actually landed, she would have been dead. Lewis refuses to quit. He lunges forward, then blasts his voice at the beast, demanding, "So you don't recognize me anymore, huh?" Vivi yanks him back and shouts at him to stop because getting any closer is insanely dangerous, while Cecilia just smirks at them. She tells Lewis that shouting at the thing is a complete waste of time. She tells him the spirit is gone now, it's just a monster, and all it wants is blood, hunting down every human it lays eyes on. The monster unleashes a savage scream and charges back, and Lewis freezes with pure terror while Vivi fights to shield him. The monster slams the ground, and everyone finally realizes that some spirit didn't just show up. It morphed into a magical beast. It's wild seeing it rip into Lewis after it used to care about him, and Vivi realizes their voices still won't reach it. She stares the creature down, wondering if they really have to end it, but then Vivi bolts toward the beast out of nowhere, and Noah blurts her name. Stunned, what is she even doing since the body of a magical beast usually isn't flesh at all. It's just a raging ocean of raw energy, with nothing solid behind it. But Vivi stares at her hand and blurts out, "Wait, normally you can't touch it like this at all." Noah blurts out in shock, "Wait, does it actually have a physical form?" And Vivi explains that, since the spirit got forced to change, the magic energy inside won't calm down the way it's supposed to. She starts to explain it, and the second Lewis gets the meaning, his eyes blaze, like he's just found the answer to everything because he realizes that the spirit hasn't fully turned into a monster yet. There's still a real chance to save him. Vivi stares at the creature and thinks, if we move right now, we might still make it in time to... Lewis just can't wrap his head around what he's hearing, and he immediately tells her, "No way, there's no way that's true." Lewis lunges for her and demands to know if she can really undo him, but Vivi shuts it down fast, saying it isn't that simple. He breaks it all down how both sorcery and magic are powered by these brutal forbidden arts. And that's exactly why they're banned, because that kind of power shatters the way nature is meant to run. Vivi snaps and points out that these spells are basically sealed away, saved only for the most brutal, no-choice moments. And right now, that moment is here. Because that one dark spell can turn one living thing into another, they might be able to swap him if they get the chance. Lewis gasps in disbelief as he tries to yank her back before she fully morphs into a beast, and he blurts, "Are you serious?" But Vivi locks eyes with him and declares she's a proud mage of Namusu, so don't you dare underestimate her. She's clearly on the edge, but she knows this is an emergency. There's simply no other way. Lewis grips Vivi tight and admits he's desperate to save the spirits, but he can't bring himself to do it alone. So he tells her, straight to her face, that she's the only person he can really count on right now. He vows to do absolutely anything he can to make sure she's safe, and that's exactly why he's begging her for help. Vivi freezes for a beat, breathes out his name in a soft whisper while she races through what to do next. She starts to drift away, spilling that helping people was never the real spark that pulled her into magic research in the first place. Then she spins back with a massive grin and goes, "So what kind of mage am I if I don't step in and help when someone's in trouble?" She gets fired up, tells him she's about to show him exactly how a pro handles it, and practically brags that he's on the brink of seeing the real power of an archmage. Lewis stares at her like she just lit up the room, his eyes blazing, as the truth hits she's really about to do it. Vivi's eyes flicker with a tiny spark, and it hits him since she's been exiled. She's finally free to ignore all those old rules. She bursts into laughter and claims she can basically do whatever she wants now because she's not about to waste this rare shot to try out forbidden magic, even if Lewis is uneasy about how it might go. Cecilia strolls in with that creepy grin, then fires the question. Did they seriously think she'd just forget about them? Things are getting bad. She fires off a sharp, intense response. She can't read what they're trying to pull, but one thing's for sure. Whatever plan they're cooking up, it's not going to work. She goes even darker and spits the truth they've seen too much, so there's no way she's letting them leave alive. Vivi is freaking out because Cecilia keeps blasting high-level spells back to back, over and over, with 0 mana drain like she's totally cheating. Pressure is crushing and Vivi desperately wants to help, but she's already burned through every single catalyst Lewis handed her, so she's stuck in a terrible spot. She knows even the most forbidden magic won't work right unless it has a catalyst, and without it, she's left stuck, and she fires back, asking Lewis if he's got anything left only for him to tell her he already handed over his very last one earlier. Lewis tells them straight up those crystals were ripped from the spirits' own bodies because he knew mages would need that extra power, so. But ever since those spirits got messed with, they've got 0 crystals left to rely on right now. Vivi finally realizes he's right, and the shock on her face screams it, because that's it, they're out of options for good. Vivi freezes in shock when it finally hits her, what Lewis just said. Those crystals weren't crystals at all, they were pieces of the spirits, and it hits her. This changes everything, and there's a way to end it way faster. She rallies the guys, declares she's got a plan, and stands her ground right in front of that massive shadow beast. Suddenly, Vivi hurls herself straight at the dark monster, diving headfirst into the whirl of black energy. And just as she slips into the shadows, she calls out to the spirit, "Hold still for a second, watch me work." Noah's stuck in the back, totally baffled, staring as she acts so bold, and he blurts, "What are you doing? What on earth are you thinking?" Cecilia spots what's happening and starts snapping, screaming that there's no way this could be real. Vivi shrugs it off and screams that she's taking the spirit's body exactly as it is straight for herself, and she breaks it down because that magic formula is nothing but the caster's own information. She can skip the steps and pull straight from the spirit as her direct source, She forged the creature into her brand new catalyst. Then a massive burst of power tore through the room like thunder. Cecilia is totally freaking out, and she blurts to Vivi, "Tell me I'm not losing it, because using a living spirit as a catalyst like that is insane." Yeah. Noah clamps his sword in a death grip, locks eyes with the enemy, and growls he won't let anyone interfere. With the plan set, someone shouts to him. Then the Duke barks, "Back up, leave it to me," and strides in like he's about to take control. Dives straight into the monster's face and tells the beast, "You want to fight. It's me you're going after now." Leaving Vivi staring, stunned, totally freaked out, she stares in disbelief as Lewis lurks in the shadows, fighting to hold on while that voice barks, "Stop moving," and he can't. Vivi shouts at the kid to run, screaming that this place is way too dangerous, but Lewis flashes her a huge grin and says he's totally fine. He's dead certain Vivi will be the one to bring him back. He's not scared one bit. He even tells himself it's fine, because he remembers the moment everything first started going wrong. He was just a little kid, sobbing all alone in the woods, spiraling into thoughts of how his father and every last servant had finally snapped. Right then, a tiny spirit popped up looking just as clueless as he was, and it blurted, "Am I stuck here alone forever?" But the spirit never left his side. It kept whispering that everything would be okay, and ever since, they've been inseparable. Lewis can't even breathe. He's staring at the spirit standing right there, fully restored, glowing brighter than ever. Vivius was pumping his fists, yelling like crazy because everything had gone perfectly after all. She watches Lewis shoot out his hand and touch his friend at last, and relief hits her hard because that dangerous move actually paid off. The spirit isn't thrilled at all. It rips into Lewis for using it as a catalyst, calling it wildly disrespectful, then snaps that if he'd pushed too far, the spirit could have vanished for good, leaving. Lewis looks totally rattled, but Vivi just laughs it off like, "Yeah, a little risk comes with forbidden magic." She admits she still needs a little more help, and the spirit growls that every mage from Nemes is nothing but the worst. Across the way, the assassin woman is completely unraveling. She's trembling on the spot, stunned that her plan fell apart this badly. She lets out a blood-curdling scream, fully realizing there's no escape left, no way out, nowhere to run right as. When Vivi storms in with that terrifying look, she stares the woman down and vows she'll spill every secret she's been hiding. Vivi leans in with a creepy grin, then asks how to start the interrogation. Turns out she's been itching to unleash a whole stack of brand new spells. The spirit stares as Vivi grills the truth with pure fury, and it realizes that forbidden magic has ripped off every last shred of her restraint while Lewis just stands there in shock, fully freaked out by what's unfolding. Lord Norman is sprawled on the floor groaning, and Lewis rockets over to check on his father, only for the old man to flash a quick wink like he's hiding another move up his sleeve. The assassin woman flashes a single glance, clocking the trap instantly, so she admits to herself the odds have flipped, and that's when Vivi yells, "Retreat!" out of nowhere. Then the woman starts to fade away right before their eyes, and Noah just stands there, stunned, watching her vanish. Vivi refuses to let her off the hook. She screams for the woman to stop and stay right there, no excuses. But the dark smoke keeps rolling out, and that warning voice blasts into their heads, "Never forget what went down here today." She glares at them one final time, jabs her finger in their direction, and swears she'll never forgive humans for ripping magic away from her people. He wasn't finished with them yet. He locked eyes with Vivi and promised she'd come back to find him all over again. With her demon pride on the line, she swears she'll make sure every last human is wiped out, and then, it's the last word she hurls out before the darkness swallows her whole, promising that when she comes back, not a single soul will be spared. Vivi and Noah stood in the hallway's center, and the dark demon made shadows still clung to the air for a beat before. Completely fading into nothingness, Vivi stares at the empty spot and whispers that he's gone, but Noah refuses to quit. He leans in and begs her to find him again. Just like last time, Vivi drops to the floor to hunt for a trail. She tells him straight up, "I'm scared I can't do this time," then snaps, why guys' techniques are totally unlike anything they've ever been trained to use. She can't stop spiraling on one terrifying thought that demons somehow knew exactly who she is, even as she's scrambling to understand what's happening. Louis screams for his father, and Vivi snaps that they should stop fretting about the escape and deal with the crisis staring them in the face. Then it hits him. This house isn't what it seems, and the truth suddenly clicks. Lord Norman finally breaks the silence, and everyone freezes as he confesses the brutal truth he'd been played and manipulated the whole time. He glances at Noah and says the same fate hit his parents too, then he cuts himself off mid-sentence, like the truth is too heavy to finish. And he swears it all comes down to that man who couldn't shut down that woman's rampage. Then Vivi's eyes go wide in pure shock at the reveal. Louis snaps his father shut on the spot, shouting that every word out of his mouth is a lie. Lord Norman freezes, totally blindsided, as he blurts out Louis's name. The kid locks eyes with him and demands, "So you really think you can keep everything hidden from me forever?" Louis leans over the desk and tells him, face to face, that he knows his father planned all of this on purpose. He dove into the desk drawer and snatched the thing he'd been guarding with his life. He yanks out the document, holds it up like a smoking gun, and says the date on it proves it's from that very day. Vivi stares at the chaotic scribbles on the page, and suddenly she clicks like, "Oh no, I know exactly what I'm looking at." Noah flips through the names, and Louis leans in like, "I know because I watched them write the whole thing out themselves," and right as Noah circles the spot on the map, Vivi blurts out, "Wait, are you telling me that's a real murder contract?" Right at that moment, a tiny fire spirit bursts in and lets everyone know she witnessed the whole thing firsthand. It all drifts back to the way things used to be. Norman can't shake the memory of never once feeling a single shred of dark, twisted magic. Back then, nobody could make him change because this group hits the brakes and stands strong, telling Norman straight up, "You chose all of this yourself." Right where he wants to be, only Norman just stands there, jaw clenched, trapped like a cornered animal while, As he kicks off his story about the past, he suddenly brings up Noah's father and gushes about how insanely successful and talented he was as an older brother. At least compared to him, he looks downright bitter as he rips into how his brother of all people got stuck with everything their father left behind, and it all boils down to talent. He claims his brother was born with way more natural gift, so he got this massive domain to rule, and that's why he was left with. Norman stood there with nothing but a little, barely there strip of land on the frontier, and when he glanced back at that past, his story was just getting started, and hits them with a direct question straight up, asking if they really don't think the whole thing is totally unfair. He flashes that creepy smile and blurts, "So why aren't the strong the ones ruling the land?" Noah just glares at him in pure disgust, shocked that his uncle unleashed all this pain and chaos over something so pathetic. Norman keeps pushing forward, talking through how he's been desperate to figure out a way to get rid of his own brother, until a mysterious woman finally steps up to him. He admits he agreed to help her wipe out the whole duchy just so he could claw his way into noble status and get this power trip he's been craving. Looking back, he admits he had zero clue what to think when she suddenly materialized out of nowhere and then hit him. She wasn't even human. Because it lined up perfectly with what he wanted, he snapped the decision on the spot, took the deal, and honestly, he went in expecting nothing from her at first, but wow, the results have been way better than he ever imagined. The only real problem he tells them is this: Noah actually survived. Noah just glares at him, completely done with everything. With a smug grin locked on his face, Norman bluntly confesses that he's the one who issued the orders for all of it, and Vivi calls him out for being weirdly honest now, but Norman just shrugs. There's no hiding it anymore, not when they're already this deep. Noah tries to move, but a brutal blast of power slams into him, and he hisses through clenched teeth as he fights to break free. And Norman just stares on, grinning like he planned it, because that basic magic he picked up from that woman is exactly what he needs right now. Norman just stands there with his arms flung wide like he's already claimed the win, and he tells them the evidence is officially wiped clean. There's nothing left. Noah stood there dripping sweat, clenching his teeth so hard his jaw hurt, and asked Norman through pure rage how he could pull something like this. Norman flashes a smug grin and straight up taunts them, demanding to know if they're really trying to threaten him or if they genuinely think they can take him down. He shuts his eyes with ironclad confidence and declares he'll never testify against himself unless there's real proof. Then boom, his face totally changes as his own voice blares out, and he finally cracks and admits it was him who gave the order. And Norman's panic detonates. He blurts, "What's happening?" as horror spreads on his face, because the voice everyone just heard was unmistakably his. From a nearby floating crystal, a voice pops in like it owns the place, saying Norman's habit of running his mouth is the reason this whole job was almost too easy. Viola rolls in with a smug grin, thrusts the crystal toward me, and declares she's nailed a flawless recording of the whole ordeal, so, of course, it's perfect. Which makes the little spirit she saved finally chime in like, "I get it now," because it's seeing exactly what she needs help with, even if it's still trash-talking all the mages here. Viola thanks the little guy for the huge help, but the spirit snaps back that she should take it as a win anyway, because she's the one who saved its life first. Norman's panic detonates. He screams that the recording is completely invalid, but Noah just plants his feet and snaps at the guy to stop already, like he's done with all this nonsense. He steps straight into Norman's space and growls that this time he's not escaping, so Norman better brace himself, because he's about to pay for everything he's done. Norman completely snaps, slams down on the floor, and blurts out stammering nonsense like a total idiot because Viola whips around to Noah and snaps that he's got major nerve calling her scary when he's basically doing the exact same thing. The gang spots Lewis standing right there, and you can tell he's still rattled from everything that just... And staring out the window, Lewis recalls the promise he made after they saved the spirit. He'd do anything to help, because the realization hit hard, and then now it's on him, no excuses, no, maybe, this isn't optional anymore, it's his duty, and he has to carry it. He finally admits to himself that deep down, he really wanted to believe one thing, that she was the only one behind all that chaos. But the spirit chimed in, staring back at the time when this place was booming with life spirits everywhere long before it got swallowed into some rough frontier territory. The spirit keeps talking, telling them that if you can't see spirits, you'll never truly get it. Then he shrugs like, "This place is still amazing, even so." Out of nowhere, a pack of maids and the butler burst down the hall in a panic, screaming for Master Lewis, and there he is. Lewis freezes mid-step, eyes wide with pure disbelief as he stares at the crowd. Everyone's actually here, gathered like this. One of the servants blurts out that they were absolutely stunned when they saw him just explode out of his room with zero warning. They swarm around him, pleading, "Don't you dare do something that reckless ever again," because their worry is off the charts so intense it's honestly just unbelievable. So the maid slips in close, clocks the look on his face, and blurts out, "What's wrong?" while the others just stand there staring. Lewis shoots the question, "Do you all really know me?" And the staff member grins back. "Of course we do." Tears begin to spill into Lewis's eyes as the sight hits him. Everyone's finally slipped back into their normal selves. Viola flashes a grin and shoots him a quick wink, then tells him the spell on everyone is finally shattered, meaning he's safe at last. Lewis wipes his face, tears pouring out as he chokes up and thanks Vivienne for everything she's done to save them. The maids are completely freaking out, demanding to know what the heck just happened, but Lewis just cracks up and shrugs it off like it was nothing at all. Viola glances at Noah and flashes a smile, saying the kid looks like he'll be okay now. Noah only gives a quiet nod, and yeah, he admits it's like Vivi's been bailing him out of every mess lately straight up, all these days. Viola grins at him, practically glowing, and admits she's just relieved her magic finally did something useful for him for once. She snaps into a full-on rant, yelling that it's basically a mage's job to unleash their power for everyone else, and of course, Noah just stares at her, then casually drops that she's become crazy reliable right as she strikes this proud little pose like, "Yeah, I earned it." Noah lifts a dark crystal and tells her, "If we pull the magic from Nemus as proof, we'll finally nail my uncle turns out he's guilty of everything." Viola slumps and blurts that she'd love to go testify herself, but she's almost certain nobody will believe her once they see her stuck in this tiny body. Noah glares down at her and says, "That's exactly why I'm taking the next step, getting you back to your normal self." And just then, when Viola finally remembers and blurts out what happened to that ring the demon mentioned, Noah immediately dives a hand into his pocket, asking if she means the very one he's holding right there. Viola locks eyes on the object, and a wild jolt of deja vu crashes over her. She's seen it before, no doubt. Noah meets her eyes and tells her the truth. He got the ring from a kid who saved his life during that nightmare, and that kid promised it would keep him safe. He points out the kid's got red hair and looks just like her, and Viola's eyes finally widen because everything's starting to click into place. The ring's surface is engraved with the Viklund name inside the Nemi's crest, carved in their ancient tongue proof of where it truly came from. Viola stares at the ring in her palm, and it finally hits her she's the one who gave it to him in the first place, because she suddenly clicks. Turns out she's met him once before, back in the past. Flashing back to that day, young Noah crumpled on the ground, barely able to move or even make sense of what had just happened. So it all begins with that young Viola caught sight of him, panicked, and hurried over, praying he was still conscious. She reached out and asked, "Are you okay?" Noah just stared up at her, bruised all over and stunned to the core. As the memory rolls on, she can't stop thinking, only the people of the kingdom of Nemus can wield magic like that. In a flashback to the academy, the teacher stands at her podium, stares them down, and tells the students that the mages worth becoming are the ones who protect people by mastering magic, and then she tells them to study like crazy so they can protect themselves and their families when things get rough, and the whole class erupts like, "Yes!" The teacher snaps into the day's lesson and announces loud and proud, "Today wind magic." So she tells everyone to keep their eyes locked on her as she does the demo, and the second the teacher begins, a young Viola drills into her notes like they're the only thing that matters. As the teacher talks through the formulas and the catalyst for the spell, Viola suddenly starts clicking everything into place because it finally hits her. It all fits together, and she can see it. By the time Viola hits 10, she's already hooked on sorcery way more than plain basic magic. She loves that magic isn't some born-with-it gift. It's something you earn through grind and willpower, so anyone can cast if they're willing to work. Staring at the crystals and the notes piled on her desk, she suddenly sees it all formulas, catalysts, the whole process like real art in motion, but she can't. She can't shake the feeling that it's totally unfair, only people from her country get to use magic. She's sure there are a whole bunch of folks outside the kingdom of Nemus who've never even seen magic, but would kill for the chance to try it themselves. Young Viola decides she's done keeping sorcery locked away. She's determined to teach it to everyone beyond the kingdom so they can finally see what it's really all about.